So, yes, welcome to February, cold, February 2025, Transportation Committee of MCB4. We have a hybrid policy that can be found on our website, which excused member and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. And members who are joining via Zoom must leave their camera on. And this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded. So we're going to start with introducing each other. And do you want to start?
Sure. Hello, I'm Jesse Greenwald, the co-chair, one of the co-chairs of this committee.
Christine Berthet, co-chair.
Hi, Thomas Garza, member.
Rodney Washington, member. Brett for public member.
David Warren, member.
Max Goodstein, member.
Alan Oster, member.
Pete Diaz, member.
Tina Nelson, member.
Ian Buckley, member.
And we are pleased to introduce our new liaison to the council member. Want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Quentin.
Oh.
Scooch a little bit this way for you guys and seen almost most of you before, I think much of you haven't met yet. And I'm the new liaison from Councilmember Eric Bottcher's office, so I will be here at many of these meetings and anything Eric Bottcher related, feel free, reach out, send me an email, send me a text. You don't have my contacts, I'm up on with you. And just excited to be part of the process.
Thank you. We're excited to have, and I forgot to pass it on to Charlie Todd. Charlie?
Hey, everybody. Charlie Todd, public member. Happy to be here.
Okay. All right, so we have a pretty good agenda today. The first item is a presentation by DOT of a... What?
Did you guys introduce yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, you did, I didn't hear that. Okay. I'm losing it.
6th Avenue protected bike lane between 14th Street and 35th Street. So take it away. I see Colin Shanagan, but that's a different person. Yeah. You are on.
Oh, interesting. I don't know why I'm coming up as Colleen. She forwarded me her her invite. Well, my name is Sean Macias. I'm the director of the bicycle program at DOT. Thank you for having us tonight. Preston Johnson, who's here, the project manager, is going to walk us through the presentation. So again, thanks for hosting us. Preston, please take it away.
I
Right.
will. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, as Sean says, my name is Preston Johnson. I'm the project manager for these protected bicycle lane upgrades that we are going to share with you tonight. So first,
I'm sorry, it's Colleen Chattergoon from City Department of Transportation. Sorry for joining late. I was having a little tech issue.
Colin, we saw your name already.
All right, thank you so much. Take it away, Preston.
okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I'll just give you a little background on the project. We'll tell you about our proposal and then where we go from here. So 6th Avenue was a project that DOT has been coming back to for years. One of our early bike lanes, generation ago, but we came back to it in 2016 to install protected bike lanes. And what we've seen since then is just this steady increase of bike volumes. And and another thing that we're seeing at the same time, or one of the aspects of the street at the same time, is that to the south of this proposed corridor, there are 3 moving lanes, and to the north, there are 3 moving lanes. But here we have 4 moving lanes. And so we're hoping that that we can take advantage of that oddity and improve the quality of the bike lane and improve safety for all street users. So we, as I said, we came here in 2016 to install the bike lane between 8th Street and 33rd Street. We extended that all the way to Central Park back in 2020. In 2022, we worked to the south and installed a protected bike lane on Church Street and 6th Avenue up to Lisbonard. And then just last year, we installed a wider bike lane and between Lisbonard all the way up to 13th Street. And so that wide bike lane is coming from these problems that we're seeing of those increased bike volumes that I was talking about earlier. Also, the use of e-bikes creates a situation where you have slow cyclists and fast cyclists using the same spot. And so you're going to have more passing. And then also, as you see in the photograph, there's a lot more trailers, a lot more cargo bikes, just a lot of wider, different types of bikes that are using the bike lane. And it makes a standard bike lane a little bit crowded. The bike lane that we installed in 2016 definitely had safety improvements, but Manhattan, it is a busy corridor, and this corridor does remain a corridor with a lot of crashes and a lot of injuries, and we want to be able to address some of those issues. So what we are proposing, we're actually also going down to 13th Street, but that is outside of your area. And but what we're proposing is to widen that bike lane. So you see that the concrete pedestrian island that's off of the west curb, that remains in the same place, but the relationship of the floating parking lane and the bike lane sort of changes a little bit. The parking lane becomes wider, that forces the bike lane becomes wider, that forces the parking lane to shift out a little bit from the curb. And we will have just 3 moving lanes instead of 4 moving lanes. And so this is a similar project to the south. And as I say, it's already been installed from 9th Street up to 13th Street. And the one block in between 13th and 14th Street was delayed by construction that's ongoing. So you see on the left, an example of the existing condition, kind of all that space that's in between the pedestrian island and the curb. The way that was designed that way to ensure that there would be room for maintenance vehicles and emergency vehicles. So there's 11 feet there. And so what we can do is widen that bike lane and repurpose some of that space. So it's not just a buffer or the parking lane, and it can be usable bike lane, sort of what you're seeing on the right there. Now, in between 31st Street and 35th Street, it's a little bit of a different condition. You'll see that there are 4 travel lanes, but no parking lanes, say like on I think this section is probably specifically between 34th and 35th. But the other blocks, it's kind of a similar situation. Because there are 3 moving lanes to the north of 35th Street, we just want to match that. And so what we're proposing is to convert that travel lane into a bus lane. But most of the dimensions stay roughly the same. What you see on the left is the existing condition, and then just like a couple blocks north is something similar to what it'll be, just basically just putting the bus lane markings on the street. So we're also hoping to make some intersection improvements. When we installed this project back in 2016, our state-of-the-art intersection treatment was the mixing zone, what you see on the left there. It's kind of a turn lane. The left turning vehicles are able to get out of that through lane, and that reduces some of the back pressure, but it also creates a little bit of uncertainty that many cyclists really don't care for. They have to figure out if the vehicle is going to turn first or if the cyclist is going to go first. And so something that we've been turning to more recently is the offset crossing, what you see on the right there. And so it creates a wider space, a space that gives the turning vehicle a little bit of room to get out of the through lane, but also reorients their vehicle before they cross the bike lane so that they're able to look down the bike lane, make sure it's safe before they cross. And so the priority of who has the right of way is more clear in this instance. There's a little less ambiguity, and it is an equally safe design to the mixing zone. And one added benefit to that change is that it does bring back to 2 parking spaces typically. The mixing zone takes up more space than the offset crossing. And so also, when the turning volumes are too high, we don't want to use that offset crossing model. So at 29th Street, it passes the threshold that we consider appropriate for an offset crossing. So we're proposing a split phase signal that separates the turning vehicles from the bikes and pedestrians, gives them 2 different times at which they make their movement. You can see in that left part of the diagram, the vehicles moving north on 6th Avenue and the bikes and the pedestrians, they all have the right of way at the same time, but those left turning vehicles are being held. And then the green arrow indication is given, and the bike stop sign and the do not walk sign are activated at that time. And so vehicles are able to turn left, and all the while the through vehicles are still going north. So we just see that this is a project that continues what we've already done to the south, creating a wider bike lane that will create a safer, more comfortable ride for people using the bike lane. The change in moving lanes should conform to what we're seeing to the south and to the north. And we're hoping that the intersection changes will improve safety and comfort for all street users as well. And we're hoping to install this project in the spring. So I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, 2 things. First,
Speak loud to the.
sure. As to the split phase signal and the offset crossings, thank you. I really believe that the old way was quite dangerous because the cars making turns could not see the bicyclists, as you mentioned. So, thank you. My second comment, though, is in terms of the street widening. I love it, but the problem is where I've seen it done, there are insufficient markings indicating that it's for pedestrians. So I cannot tell you. Well, I can actually say that I don't think I've walked a block without seeing a bicycle in the pedestrian walkway. And frankly, a part of me doesn't even blame the bicyclists because there aren't enough markings on the pavement. So what could be done about that?
So it's Colleen from DOT. I can address the pedestrian markings in the area where the sidewalk has widened. So we are looking to do that in terms of installing those markings. I will get back with the community board on a timeline for that. So thank you for bringing that up.
And what do you mean by markings there, Colleen?
It's clear in markings indicating that that's a pedestrian space. We do have something that we are working on that I can share with the community board.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah.
Who else?
Been for that for a long time.
Any question?
I mean, is there anything that can be done besides markings? Because frankly, like, people don't follow the markings, like.
Yeah, are you ready at all to preview what you're talking about, Kyle?
Well, and what we are saying here is that the marking is great, but there is not a lot of respect for it, so it would be good to have additional, solution, although we don't know what it is. Okay.
But just to be clear, that the majority of the project from 14th Street to 31st Street, or maybe to 32nd Street, there will be no like added pedestrian space on the roadbed. But there is like the space through Herald Square that'll have like, will continue to have these pedestrian spaces.
Charlie,
I think is that what you're saying is that when there is a pedestrian crossing, right?
Okay.
We're talking about the intersection of pedestrian crossing and the
Okay.
bike lane. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, so there will be the crosswalk symbols that across through to the pedestrian island, and we'll also extend do a little bit of painted truffle on the truffle colored paint on the other side of that island that sort of extend the usefulness of that pedestrian island some, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet the other direction.
So if I may amplify on that, in a lot of bike lane now, you have the pedestrian crossing, and then you put a green box after the pedestrian crossing in the flow of traffic. And the message here is that it's okay to cross the pedestrian crossing while there is a red light. And I think we're talking about maybe using the same thing you are using for the cars, which is like a big stop bar, which is before the pedestrian crossing. So that's the problem we are talking about.
I see.
Okay. Charlie, right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to DOT so much for the presentation. I am super excited about this. It's great news. So excited to be getting rid of more mixing zones in our district. I think once we get rid of the mixing zones here on 6th Avenue, we're just going to have some on 7th Avenue in our district, and then 10th Avenue in the 50s. So would just encourage you guys to come back to us with plans to get rid of the mixing zones in those remaining areas in the district. I wanted to ask if you have any plans for green wave signal timing on this corridor. Everyone has been delighted to see 3rd Avenue and how successful that is, how wonderful it is for cyclists, particularly with the split phase times that we have, at least at 29th Street. I know sometimes that can cause cyclists to only be able to make one block, which causes cyclists often to run red lights. So we'd love to see green wave.
Noted. I can take that one, Preston. I think we are excited about the early returns as well. We're going to just take a beat and study it, make sure, early returns, like I said, are great. People seem to enjoy it. It's working for everyone on the corridor thus far. We're going to monitor it through the spring, summer. If we're on the right track, we're going to keep working towards adding those. But as of right now, there's nothing firm planned.
Okay, that's great. And yeah, don't hesitate to come to us about 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th green waves too.
If we need another pilot, we may be knocking on your door. So
yeah, we're ready for a pilot, maybe on 9th. But yeah, I think this looks great. The only other question I had was the width of the vehicle lanes. I know the safety checklist for transportation projects indicates that 10-foot lanes are a safety feature. That we'd love to see here. And I know particularly like between 31st and 35th, if you were able to reduce the width of the vehicle lane to the 10-foot standard, then there'd be room to make the bike lane a little bit bigger than 10 feet, than 5 feet, maybe a 6-foot bike lane there. So something to consider.
Well, the issue is that, your standard, you're correct about the standard, but the exception for that is on a truck route and in a bus route. And so those are some of the reasons that the engineers prefer that 11-foot lane in those cases. And to speak to the bike lane, where it's we're limited by the pedestrian islands about how much wider we can make the bike lane.
Got it. And are the existing lanes there 10 though?
They are. I mean, I think that might have been grandfathered in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't love moving in the direction of making the lanes wider, but I get where you're coming from and what the reason is there. And then the last thing I'd say is just very nice to see the bus lane, and the more we can have bus lanes and the avenues in our district, the better. So thank you guys.
Okay, and I have a question. So how did you choose West 29th Street to do a split phase?
It's based on traffic turning volumes. And so when when there are too many turning vehicles, we don't want to use the offset crossing.
Okay, so are you doing the same thing as 14, 23rd, and 34?
We're at 14th. What
Yeah.
14th, 23rd. Yeah, I mean they have the split phase. So we're not changing this.
All right, okay. All right, very good. Who is that? I'm sorry.
And this was actually the first one I wanted to ask about. So basically you're expanding the bike lane by 4 feet. But to make that 4 feet, you're cutting out an entire lane and then expanding the lanes. Why not just add 6 feet to the sidewalk on the other side of the street, give that back to pedestrians instead of just redistributing to the cars? I mean, if you're knocking out a lane, just knock out the whole lane and give that back to all kinds of alternative transportation options, not just widen the remaining lanes.
So you're saying instead of widening the bike lane, or?
Well, no, so
No.
widen the bike lane, great, you know, it's always embarrassing when you get passed by somebody on a bicycle who's like half your age. So give them the passing lane so they don't yell at me while they're behind me, that's great. But what I'm saying is, you're knocking out an entire lane of traffic, which, okay, if you don't think we need the volume on the street for that extra lane, you guys are the experts on that. But what I'm asking is, rather than spreading that extra 6 feet that you're distributing to each of the remaining lanes, why not just add that 6 feet to the end of the sidewalk, to the sidewalk on the other side? Give us a little more street life, maybe some planters, something back that you know, instead of just making wider traffic lanes.
No, that's a great point. I mean, I think that, like I was saying earlier, our engineers definitely have a preference on bus routes and truck routes to have that 11-foot lane, but we can bring that issue up and see.
Well, if that's the issue, I mean,
Good.
you're already making it a bus.
You sold it.
Okay, yes, that's,
Okay,
I was just gonna, why did you make a bus lane instead of a bus?
No,
Make one of
that's-
them would be.
okay, okay. So, Janine, can you bring the first 4 speaker who has their hand up?
If you're a member of the public who would like to speak on this, now's the time. Raise your hand, please, and Janine will move you over a couple at a time.
All right, I'm bringing over Carrie, Jahaya, Kurt, and Jim.
Okay,
Was that me first?
No.
Hey, thank you for the presentation, especially thank you for the effort to remove the mixing zones. Really appreciate that. I think I have 3 comments which were sort of said that I'll just sort of echo on this slide. It's already 10 feet, like really keep it. We don't want wider streets that would encourage vehicles to go faster. So I'll sort of echo the comments the people had said, even if it's just leaving one of them 11 feet for buses on the east side, I could understand that, but really don't want to see wider lanes. And then if you could go to slide 12, I think, let me see here, or sorry, slide 11. Oh, I lost my screen. Sorry, hang on. Yeah, so here, same comment, like that westbound lane isn't needed for buses. So like take that extra foot and make it an extra foot in the bike lane. 5 to 6 feet can make a real big difference for people being able to pass you. And I'll say this as somebody who's often the slower one in the bike lane with kids on my bike, so I would appreciate that here. And then on slide 14, if you could jump to that, I'll just sort of say, like, echo the frustration I have as a cyclist is, you know, having dedicated signals, but often getting there in the red phase. So even if you're not willing to do the whole corridor at 15 miles an hour for cyclists, it's really important to do the signals just before this so that cyclists don't end up at this particular intersection during the red phase and try to sort of run it. So, but thank you for that. Really appreciate all these improvements.
Thank you. Who's next? Carrie?
Carrie.
Hi, thank you. First, nice to see everyone. Happy 2025. Thanks for this open meeting. I'm actually here not to speak on this issue, but I did want to comment. Appreciate the DOT's presentation. I hope it doesn't exclude me from commenting further in the meeting. Can I get a yes or no?
No, you can comment on
Okay.
this
All right.
topic and then
Thank you.
comment again on every topic.
Thank you so much. My concern with this is, as a cyclist, I know primarily in a lot of these bike lane renovations, for lack of a better phrase, I know a lot of it is servicing the delivery industry. So I must say, as a cyclist myself, my concern is the widening of the lane, creating an advantage for the e-delivery industry to go the other way. And there's a big problem with two-way bike lane infrastructure, and that does affect blind and disabled people greatly. And I do need to speak out again for that, because we have an issue with that, with people getting hurt. As a pedestrian myself, there's when the bike lanes are crossing in two different directions, that is a hazard. And as far as I don't know what the phrase is, but Mr. Todd brought it up, making the signals, somehow timed so that, cyclists can go, don't have to get stopped at every light. I can appreciate that concern and that desire, but it can throw off a blind person greatly. So I just hope the DOT and Ms. Chattergoon, if you can speak on this and get back to maybe the board with an answer, I hope that is not the plan for the two-way bike lane infrastructure. This is something that's being pushed through. And I'll say that, and I just hope that you have the blind and the disabled in mind. Thank you.
It's Colleen again from DOT. Just so you know, we are well aware of Celis Manor, and in the past we have worked with them when we had made these improvements a few years back, and we will continue to do so. Just so you know.
Okay, thanks. I just can't see this moving into a two-lane bike lane situation with the current infrastructure as we continue to try to get proper licensing and registration for people that are rogue. So, we're talking about overall safety. I appreciate what the DOT is implementing and trying to do. Just a few thoughts. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Janine, who is next?
Kurt Kavanaugh is next.
I'm Kurt Kavanaugh here from the Flatiron Nomad Partnership. DOT friends, great stuff, great presentation. 2 questions for the plan. First is to dive back into the 23rd Street light. The split phase there is a blinking yellow mixing zone. Want to see if there's any consideration for a full split there. Secondly, just want to see if this is a scrape and restripe or resurfacing project. I assume scrape and restripe, but I'll let you address that.
Yeah, this was just resurfaced recently. I mean,
Right.
A lot of it. So we're not resurfacing it. In light of that, we put down some temporary markings. I think a lot of people were upset about the condition of the buffer, but that was sort of an effort trying to reduce the the amount of line removal that we'd have to do this year. So that's how we're going forward with that. Yeah, we're taking a look at 23rd Street. We haven't figured that out right now, if it can be changed to a different type of split phase, but it's something we'll look into.
Okay, we would, I'll say on record, the partnership, we would be very supportive of those considerations. It is probably our most challenging intersection in the district, that and 23rd and Park Avenue South. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And who's next, Janine?
Jim? Jim, right?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Jim Wright. I'm a resident of Chelsea and use the 6th Avenue bike lane frequently. It's great to see more safety improvements. I think overall, the better the bike lanes are, the better you have self-enforcement and improved safety for the bike riders and pedestrians overall. And also vehicles, there's fewer conflicts. I do have a couple questions. Unless I missed it, the diagrams don't seem to be showing the bike lane condition between 32nd and 34th Street, which, as you know, is a small segment of a two-way bike lane due to the merging of the south bike lane coming down Broadway, having to go down 6th Avenue for 2 blocks and transfer over to Broadway again. So,
yeah, we're not making any changes to that southbound bike lane there. This is just a typical section because basically each block is different here.
Wouldn't the elimination of one vehicle lane change the width of the bike lane then?
Well, you can see here that all that's really being changed is the designation of that east lane. All of the geometry stays the same. So it's just that we're going to say that is a bus lane on the east curb instead of a standard travel lane.
I see. So the two-way bike lane segment between 34th, 32nd and 34th, each direction will remain the same width then, I guess.
That's right.
I do have one comment, and this is something that's sort of followed through the changes of the bike lanes, both on Broadway and 6th Avenue, where the southbound transitions from 6th Avenue to Broadway. The transition point at 32nd Street is actually a pretty awkward place for that to happen. And there's several reasons. One is if you're going southbound on 6th Avenue and approaching 32nd Street, there's no queuing space once you cross the street. And if you're waiting for the eastbound light to cross over, and it does create a pretty awkward situation for both bicyclists, and having gone through there a lot, pedestrians as well. Also, I'd say that short segment of roadway between 6th Avenue and Broadway is quite narrow and it's not really conducive for bikes and vehicles. I would really strongly suggest, I made this suggestion to DOT in the past, looking at having that transition, southbound transition, happen at 33rd Street rather than 32nd. There's less traffic at that point, and I understand it would be a counterflow move, but once you get crossing over 6th Avenue onto the Herald Square pedestrian area, it would be pretty easy to create a bike lane through that plaza. So I'm just suggesting that's a problematic transition as it is now, and that's something you might want to look at. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, again, since this is saying it's going to 35th Street, the bike lane from 34th to 35th is a very narrow lane within a Jersey barrier there on one side, on the traffic side, and sort of a awkward leftover space on the edge of the park there.
Yeah.
And again, it's not clear to me, are you proposing any changes in that block between 33rd and or 34th and 35th? If not, I would suggest that's a real pinch point. And even with the Jersey barrier, you can only get one bike through there, in the width. So the possibility of bikes passing each other, it's not possible in that area. So those are the comments I have. Other than that, I do appreciate seeing all the improvements that are happening on 6th Avenue.
That is a challenging space because on the other side of 35th Street, the bike lane sort of veers to the left. And
Right.
so to widen the bike lane to the east or to the right would sort of exacerbate that lane shift for both motor vehicles and bikes. So the only way to grab more space would be to take it from the pedestrian space.
Uh-huh.
And so
Is that a possibility? Because there is, pedestrians can go through the park itself and of course further to the west at Macy's.
it's not something that we're proposing now. I mean, we can take a look at it, but it is a very active pedestrian corridor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, obviously, whenever you have a pinch point on any kind of vehicle lane, whether it's bikes or cars, you create a congestion zone. So that block between 34th and 35th is pretty awkward.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more comments from online? No?
No, those are, oh wait, there's one more hand up.
Yes, one.
Okay, Austin, I'll bring him over.
Hi, I just wanted to speak very quickly. My name is Austin Sulliston. I'm a grad student at Wagner. I very frequently use the 6th Avenue bike lane to get home on the Upper West Side. And it's really good to see the safety changes that are coming in. Any upgrade to the bike lane infrastructure is welcome. There are plenty of interactions, plenty of conflicts with both cars that are turning, and having that turn line, I think, is especially crucial, that you won't have a backlog of traffic and you won't have bikes swerving, low visibility. I've almost gotten hit as a pedestrian walking down by both a car and a bike. And I've also hit someone on accident because the car was in the crosswalk and moved up and forced a pedestrian to go behind. And I was trying to avoid a car that was starting to turn, and we collided with each other. Thankfully, both of us walked away okay. He actually helped me up, but more of those separations, distinct times between bike travel and pedestrian travel, doing more to give them proper space is all welcome. And I think I welcome more changes. A widening of the bike lane, I'd also say, is welcome. 6th Avenue is heavily used. I think that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clarification is the bus lane is being created between 31st and 35th. What's happening below 31st?
We're not changing that east curb. This was just something where, currently there is a travel lane that creates 4 travel lanes. There's one on the curb. It was just creating a problem where we were putting moving vehicles that were heading into a bus lane. So this is a way to just extend that bus lane, and it just becomes a cleaner sort of condition.
I get it, but what is the answer to the question? The question is below 31st Street, what is in that lane?
Parking
Yeah.
is in that lane.
Right, it's
Okay.
parking, bus stops,
Bus stop. So you couldn't do a bus lane there?
it's not, I mean, we're trying to balance like some of the issues of the access
I can
to
jump
the,
in, Preston.
yeah.
It's on the table. Everything's on the table, but it will require losing parking along the curb from 32nd to 14th Street.
Okay,
Um,
so who has a problem with them?
Commercial.
I think all the commercial businesses along the corridor may
Okay,
have
so it's
issues,
not
but
parking, right? It's not parking, it's loading.
Yeah, it's
It's
commercial.
loading. There is no parking per se.
It's not parking for passenger vehicles, it's
And
commercial.
what's the turnaround? I mean, is it parking commercial 1 hour or 3 hours? What is it?
looks like 7 to 7. So then overnight, it looks like it may convert to traditional parking.
I know, but I'm asking during the day.
That's what I was saying. 7 to 7, it's commercial, and overnight
And
converts
it's
to parking.
commercial 3 hours or commercial 1 hour?
12 hours.
No,
How long can they?
Right. So you can park for 3 hours using the meters.
All right.
So the
Is there any
span
chance-
for commercial loading is 12 hours, but you're right.
is there
it's-
any chance to switch that to 1 hour?
We can take that back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll ask our borough engineer.
Yeah, and Kristen, if you can add that in the resolution, because I know the board is going to send us a
Yes.
resolution. So if you can put that in, yeah,
We will.
thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for the presentation. And as you can see, we are all very excited. That's why we're asking a lot of questions.
Much appreciated.
So let me summarize what kind of we heard so that we can make a resolution, we can make a motion. We are going to say we like a lot of what we heard, but we want to see pedestrian markings so that, green wave, widening of the pedestrian on the east side instead of widening of the streets. Method to address the people who go the other way, although we don't know how to do that. On 23rd Street, for sure, try to make a full split phase. And based on the last discussion, we asked them to, for the future, do a study of 33rd and 32nd. Between 33rd and 32nd, that person said this is very problematic. So we just want to ask them to keep in mind and look at it. And then we'll ask also for 1 hour parking instead of 3 hours. And I think we caught everything. And so could we have a motion?
I make that motion.
What?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the 1 hour parking is so that the bus that currently travels there can navigate at a faster speed?
No, it's so that the circulation, there is more turnover. People don't park there just 3 hours and then come back.
I make that motion.
There's a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Excellent. Thank you so much, DOT. We appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right, so we wanted to have, the second thing was to have a DOT, a discussion about the rules on the revocable consent for battery swapping and charging cabinet installation on sidewalk. You saw that into the Dropbox. Essentially, it says that any business or residents can request the installation of a battery swapping for bikes on the sidewalk anywhere in the city, and there is no restriction. I mean, indeed, it will come in front of the DOT. It doesn't come in front of the rules, so it doesn't come in front of the community board. And I was personally alarmed with that because we know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is the bikes are going to enter at the corner on the ramp. They are going to ride on the sidewalk. And then once they are in front of the charging station with their bikes, it's going to take a little while to swap the. So I'm concerned that it's going to encourage riding on the sidewalk, and it's going to encourage, aggregation of people on bikes on the sidewalk, which again is going to limit the, pedestrian, and it's going to aggravate the conflict that we have heard in many meetings for this issue. So first I wanted to hear whether we are all concerned, or I'm the only one concerned, or people are not concerned. They think it's a good idea. Who's starting?
So I would say the rationale behind the program, right, is I think twofold at least. One is to limit, these batteries are causing fires and they are dangerous, and so the idea is to swap out old and depleted batteries and replace them with ones that are healthier and less likely to cause a fire. The second is, I think it stops workers from having to travel long distances to go home or go to wherever they were going to recharge. So adding mileage for workers to get from their deliveries all the way back to some recharging park to then all the way go back. And so while I think me personally, the ideas behind the program are worthwhile, I understand Christine's concerns about how do we limit the scope to protect, one, our sidewalk space, two, to make sure that people aren't biking on the sidewalks, and three, maybe targeting the proposal to actually make recommendations on specific places that these battery swaps would be most appropriate in our district. But that's just me.
So
yes.
So Christine, it's Colleen. We've put together a brief presentation to share with you about this, and my colleagues Grace Austin and Patrick Smith are with us. And if we can share with you a few of the slides and have a discussion about it, and share with the community board a bit about the program and about a pilot that we recently did, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, we
That'd
didn't
be
realize
awesome.
that you have that. Yeah.
Yes, we do. Thanks.
Okay. You guys are awesome.
Great, thanks, Colleen. Let me just share my screen. Great. And thank you all. You began touching on a lot of important points that we were hoping to discuss today. So glad we can continue the conversation. We'll jump in here. So hi, my name's Grace. I work at the Department of Transportation in the policy unit, and I'm happy to be here to discuss e-bike charging infrastructure today. Why we're discussing this, again, you began to talk about this, but as we all know, e-bikes are becoming an increasingly popular mode of getting around the city. They offer a sustainable and efficient way of moving through the city, but at the same time, we've seen how some bikes that are operating with lithium-ion batteries that are unregulated have caused significant fires, hundreds of fires, and multiple deaths over the past 5 years. So we're really experiencing a fire safety crisis that we want to be able to address and are taking seriously. And we see an opportunity here to address this issue by providing safe charging infrastructure in outdoor environments. So today we're going to kind of walk through a pilot program that we've actually already done to test different e-bike battery charging technologies. So I'm going to first start and discuss that for a bit, and then we'll conclude by looking at the new ruling and opportunities for charging infrastructure to be on sidewalks moving forward. So to begin, in 2024, the city conducted an e-bike charging pilot program, again, to test this new charging technology. It lasted about 6 months and took place across 5 pilot sites in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And this was a free service that was provided to 118 food delivery workers who rely heavily on e-bikes to meet the demands of the food delivery market and complete their shifts. So to provide some visuals on the technology that was used for the pilot program, on the left you'll see an e-bike charging dock, which is kind of similar to your typical bike rack, except it's electrified, so you can put your bike up to it and charge in there. And then on the right you'll see two different versions of battery swapping cabinets. And to provide kind of more context as to what this looks like in use, again on the left it's kind of like a bike rack where you'd put your bike up to it and plug it in to charge for a period of time. And then on the right, these are battery swapping cabinets that a vendor provides, and both the cabinets are owned by the company along with the batteries that you can swap in and out. And these batteries are UL certified, which brings me to kind of a larger point that one of the best things that we can be doing to addressing fire safety with e-bike use in the city is to increase access to affordable UL certified batteries, and these cabinets and increasing programs to do that is one method. So there's a lot of technical terms on this slide, but essentially kind of the fire safety element of these cabinets is based in a communication system between the cabinet itself and then the battery that's charging, where there's monitoring of the rate at which the battery is charging and assessing when it's reached its full charge to ensure it doesn't overcharge, which is where there could be potential fire risk. And then to kind of get to the people side of the pilot program, again, I mentioned there were 118 test users. These were users who are food delivery workers, mainly delivering food in Manhattan and using delivery apps to do so. And in terms of pre-pilot behaviors, many of these food delivery workers relied on charging at home, again, as one of your members mentioned, having to maybe even go home during shifts to recharge, and over half just chose to carry 2 or more spare batteries to meet their charging needs during shifts. So we installed these 5 pilot sites with various e-bike charging technologies to really try to better understand the effectiveness of public charging. And we were really excited to see that this infrastructure was well utilized by our test users, with over 12,000 battery swaps and 1,300 charging dock sessions. And with that kind of shift in behavior towards using UL certified batteries and using public outdoor charging infrastructure, this led to a reduction in fire risks that would take the form of at-home charging and using spare batteries rather than using these UL certified batteries through our program. And then finally, just a note on this slide, across the 5 sites, we noticed that sites that were in busier areas with more stores, more shops, we saw that those were better utilized by our users. And then to go through a few more of the key points and lessons learned from the program, with any infrastructure that's on our streets and sidewalks, we want to make sure it's well maintained, well used, and well respected. And we saw a positive outcome from our program where there really was a sense of community stewardship and strong relationships between the vendors of the cabinets, the users, our agency, in really responding to one another on our needs and respecting the physical infrastructure that was on the streets for public charging. And to conclude just on these key points, in terms of street safety, there were no pedestrian bike conflicts reported. And as you can see on the right side of my screen, there's a full report that's available if you'd like to learn more about what I touched on today and look at the details of the pilot program. You can put in this title here and go to our website and look at it. And then to jump into the main point of the discussion today and looking at these new rules, opportunities to expand on public charging are something that we're really excited about, considering the positive outcomes of the pilot program. And revocable consent for charging cabinets is one avenue to achieve this expansion in safe infrastructure. And essentially what revocable consent for these cabinets means is that property owners or tenants can apply to have cabinets that either are the swapping services, similar to what I was showing in the pilot program, or charging lockers that are more personally owned batteries. And these would be cabinets that are placed adjacent to their properties. And the rules opened and applications opened on February 1st, which is why we're considering this as kind of a current opportunity to really address fire safety and public safety concerns around e-bikes. To get more into the details of this opportunity, who can actually apply for the revocable consent petition? As I mentioned, property owners or tenants with owner's approval can apply, and specifically owners of residential buildings with 5 or more units, or buildings where the ground floor has a non-residential use. And then on the other side, who can use these cabinets, it could either be offered as a building amenity, maybe to tenants, or open to members of a paid service who are choosing to opt into that service. And then with the considerations of, new infrastructure that would be on these sidewalks, there's comprehensive siting considerations and design guidelines for these cabinets. There are revocable consent rules that outline maximum dimensions for the cabinets and distances between the cabinets. The fire department has separate general siting guidelines, and then the Department of Transportation itself has clearances relating to street furniture, entrances, and clear pathways. And so, with this new infrastructure, we're excited to have it as an opportunity to address really serious issues around fire safety and public safety with e-bikes, and simultaneously, wanting to maintain and strike a balance with existing priorities around ensuring all users of our streets and sidewalks really are being able to operate and use these spaces effectively and safely. So I will pause here, and Patrick and I are happy to take any questions from the presentation.
Good. Let's talk this way.
Regarding the pilot program, what was the feedback from the community boards in those particular areas? And did you speak to the community boards before setting up the pilot program?
Yeah, thanks for that question. If I recall correctly, we did give heads up to the community boards. I don't have available right now specific feedback that we got from community boards, but I think in general the stakeholders that we engaged with were pretty happy with how it was going, and we didn't get any particular frustration or complaint from any of
The
those
reason I
sites.
asked is that I think Grace did mention sort of stakeholders, but I heard nothing about community players, sort of commercial business partners, or I didn't hear community people. That's why I asked the question. Anything
Sure.
from but thanks.
Yeah, can you speak more about the DOT clearance requirements? And the reason I'm asking is because, for example, when we review sidewalk, outdoor dining, we think about like the clear path of the sidewalk and how big it is and how big the corridor is. And frankly, some sidewalks may not be appropriate at all for any shed of this type, just because there's not enough space. And so I don't know how detailed those are. I didn't see that in the proposal. And so if you could just speak more to that so we can understand whether this is actually going to be prohibited on some sidewalks because they're too narrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that the clearance requirements include clear path for sidewalk. And so in addition to sort of clearances from existing street furniture to make sure that our sidewalks aren't getting too cluttered, it does mean that, in busy commercial areas with a lot of street furniture or places that have narrow sidewalks, we're not going to be able to site these cabinets there. The sort of property owners won't be approved for revocable consents for cabinets at those locations.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, sidewalks that are very narrowed, for example, 9th Avenue corridor, may not be feasible to put these structures on them because we have to keep in consideration pedestrian clearance, and there's other furnitures that's on the sidewalk as well.
Just let me follow up on that, Colleen and Patrick. When I read the rules, the new rules, it doesn't talk about the clear path, and it doesn't talk about the pedestrian mobility plan. So who makes the decision about the clear path? And based on what?
Yeah, so no, it's a good question. So the rule that was published basically layers on top of all of the existing revocable consent clearance requirements, the existing ClearPath rules that that DOT already has. So in the rule document, it basically specifies the maximum dimensions for this cabinet and sort of the specific details about how close these can be together. But all of your existing requirements, like everything has to be 5 feet from a tree bed pit, for example.
But it's not 5, it's 10. I'm a little concerned about your numbers.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And all of those existing rules still apply. And
But these existing rules do exist only within some programs. Even the consent department doesn't have a clearance requirement for the objects which are put, which relate to the pedestrian mobility plan. It's not linked. You don't have a link. It doesn't exist there. It exists only for the open dining. So we are concerned that there is a basis of understanding for the open dining, but nobody else does have that. And your new rule definitely doesn't relate to that. And by the way, your new rule said that the cabinet can be 4 feet, where normally the objects that can be put in front of the building are 3 feet. So we've already exceeded this thing by 30%.
And that's before you put the bicycle next to the.
Well, and then you need to put a bunch of bicycles in front of it, which, I mean, we like it, but it's just not the right place. And I don't see in the rule a clear definition of a process to apply those clear paths.
Okay, so Christine, this is something we can take back to our colleagues in franchise. And I know what you're saying, because in the dining out, we have clear rules that specify, X amount of footage that, the structures have to be away from. And I think you raise an interesting point where, we really need to be more, we really need to have the information put together that we can share, just like how we shared it with the dining out program.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Yes, so Brett and Vera.
We're just doing questions, not comments at this point, right?
What?
We're just doing questions.
Yeah.
So I'm curious more about this battery swap program. So like somebody signs up for the program and anytime they need they need a new battery, so it's there, do they pay for it? Like how does that, where are these batteries coming from? How does somebody get to swap out batteries there?
Sure. So I'll speak to kind of an example, a hypothetical. If the cabinet were to be on the ground and you signed up for a swapping service, you may be in contact with the company and you then have like a membership, or you can then access the UL certified battery that the company's providing. So you wouldn't be working with any personal battery. There would just be stored batteries provided by the company that you can trade in and out. And that's the benefit of the paid service that you may be accessing.
Is it like a rental program? Is it like you just free batteries for everybody?
So it's anybody who has a battery. If I have a battery, I can just ride up to the cabinet and open it and get my battery charged. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, for example, with the pilot program, it was offered as a free service as a part of the pilot program, but the users would scan a QR code on the cabinet, and that would then grant them access to take a battery out and put the battery that they had back into the swapping cabinet.
What about with a new program, with a real program? How does that work?
So with the new program, if you were either doing the option with the swapping services, then that might be where you're paying for the service, or it could be a building accommodation or amenity that's provided if you were, say, like a tenant in the building and your property owner applied and got a cabinet approved.
So there is a company that provides the service therefore, right? You have to have a subscription to that service.
Yes. Yeah, that would be one of the options for using the cabinet.
But why is this something that would have to go outside of the sidewalk? Couldn't a building just, talk to the apply for the program to the company and put it in their parking garage or put it in their lobby? Why does it have to go outside?
Because of the delivery.
But the delivery people go inside the buildings to deliver food. Why can't they go inside to swap a battery? I'm just wondering why this is going outside.
All right, Viren was next.
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, this taller structure that you're putting in on the sidewalk, they'll be in front of the building. Do you actually need permission from the building? Is there a sort of communication with power? Just putting tents or whatever height structure might be, do you need to do that? The second question I have is, why put it on the sidewalk and why not put it along with the sort of bike infrastructure? That's number one option. Number two, why does it have to be tall? Why can't it be horizontally sort of spread out? So the height is reduced, because you're actually creating a sort of urban clutter in front of the building that commercial stores can potentially object to that.
But they are the one ordering it.
Like it's
the
private,
Why don't you buy the sidewalk? Why don't you just lay it along with the bike infrastructure?
Oh, well, that's a different question, yes. So do you have an answer to that, which is but if we're installing bike corrals, right? Why aren't those cabinets in the roadway next to the bike corral?
No, I think that's a good suggestion for setting. So this is a photo of a cabinet up against the building wall, but I think we do expect a lot of these to go in the furnishing zone closer to the curb.
No, I didn't ask that question. I didn't ask about the furnishing zone. I asked about the roadway, the parking lane where you have a bike corral.
Yeah, so in that case, I don't think we have a definitive answer right now on whether it's possible to put it in the curb lane. And it's something we are looking at with our team internally. For the revocable consent process specifically, that kind of limits where the adjacent property owner can apply to install it and to the sidewalk rather than in the roadway space.
Yeah, I would imagine a structure like this, there would be concerns about sightlines, especially if it's adjacent to a bike corral. I mean, imagine if we were to, remove the newsstands from the sidewalk and put them adjacent to a bike corral. I mean, I'm just figuratively speaking.
Aaron's second question though was maybe make it horizontal so that it's not a stall.
This is what Jim did mention, make it horizontal so it doesn't become an issue with sightlines.
All right, okay, so I have that. Who is next? Okay.
Well, I know, but you can go on.
Yeah, so, let's say, they install this, a company's gonna get money possibly from the, client. Will that company be paying the city any rental fee to use of the sidewalk and for some of the profits coming from the,
Yeah, they're going to pay for the consent. The consent is something you pay for.
No, but the company, will they pay the city because they're gonna be using the sidewalk?
Yes,
So
they pay a consent.
And what?
They get a consent and the consent has a price for it.
So how much is
I
that?
don't know, but yes.
So I think this is a phenomenal idea. I really, really like this. I just think it's approached in a strange way. First, I'm worried about branding on these. I don't want to see this as billboards or kind of advertising spaces like the bus shelters. So if that could be some way formalized and this is not some giant branding opportunity, that would be really, really nice. And then I think there's a humongous opportunity here. You obviously need electricity to these cabinets, and you have city bike stations that also need electricity. Why can't these be co-located with city bike stations, providing electricity to the city bike station and also to the cabinets, providing a greater public good along with these cabinets?
Yeah, I think both are important points. Just on the advertising piece, we're with you. We agree these will not be sort of new billboards on the sidewalk. It's worth noting these have to go in front of the PDC as well, and they also would object to that type of approach. On the co-locating with city bike stations in general, co-locating sort of new electrified infrastructure on the street is something that the team is actively pursuing and working with Con Ed on, because the for this specific instance, we're talking about the revocable consents where a property owner is specifically applying to install out front of their building. It's a little tougher to coordinate that, but you know, the DOT is also advancing programs where we'll be sort of selecting a suite of locations to install them, you know, using city programs, and on those we're definitely looking at opportunities to co-locate with other electrified curb infrastructure.
Yeah, just circling back, I mean, sidewalk space is at a premium. I don't know, are you saying that you're first looking at where New York has installed electric charging stations for cars? Because it would make sense to install this where you've already set aside space for electric charging stations for vehicles. I make sense.
Yeah, I think the only issue they are saying is that where it's most popular is when you have restaurant and a commercial stretch, and then the commercial stretch is typically not the place where they have charging car infrastructure, which is more close to the home and to the residential. So this is like two different, I agree with you, but I think that it may not be an overlap between those two worlds. That's, yes.
So I have a few questions. One is just this is a naive maybe, but you said I think you launched on February 1st. I'm curious how many applicants you've had to have this. Because I'm not sure I understand what kind of commercial business or residential building would want this in front of their building, seeing as it would presumably attract a number of delivery workers to sort of wait while their batteries being either recharged in the bike station or, you know, swapping out and hanging out there. So I'm just curious, like who's applying for this? Where are we seeing these? Where might we be seeing these soon pop up?
Yeah, totally. Without getting sort of deep into details, I'll say the application process, and particularly some of the documentation that the fire department requires for these, is pretty extensive, and so we're still pretty early days in the application process. We're starting to hear some interest, and we're getting questions from building owners and tenants about installing these. We don't have many applications yet.
Okay. And then two, I heard, so what's the name of this company that you contracted with to build these particular lockers?
So there were two companies that did battery swapping cabinets. This is a photo of Pop Wheels' cabinet.
Okay, so there's a couple, and then it sounded like you were also maybe doing some of your own with co-branding, or I heard. So I just want to ask, I feel like this is such a great opportunity for a point of contact with our delivery workers in terms of safety and making sure that they understand the rules of the road, which is a common concern that we have about delivery workers here. And seeing as it seems like they need either to right now they got to use a QR code, but how wonderful it would be if it was an app that they had to take a training or watch a 1-minute video about the, you know, not going the wrong way on the bike lane, going the right way on a certain avenue, and then, you know, actually even seeing the fines associated with breaking any of these rules, and actually literally having to go through this for even 30 seconds or a minute every time they come to one of these lockers. I would love to see that in the contracts that you have with these companies, and especially in the DOT. I mean, we've been asking something like this from the delivery apps for forever. We're going nowhere, but here we have the DOT who's launching this our own DOT who is spearheading this project. And so what a prime opportunity to really deliver on some of the improvements around safety when it comes to e-bikes that we've been dealing with. Because we understand e-bikes are not going anywhere. We're gonna have these, and we definitely want them to be safer. We want them to cause less fires. absolutely, but along that, we want to reduce the share of accidents, so, I really want to stress and ask why we're not seeing a more creative use of this point of contact with our delivery workers.
Yeah, I think that's a really thoughtful suggestion, and I hear the passion there, and just want to affirm that we share it. We're looking for every opportunity we can to get safety materials in front of delivery workers, make sure they understand their responsibilities, and leverage our connections with them, and any programs where we're sort of offering them things to make their lives and jobs easier, to make sure that they also understand the responsibilities to operate safely on the road. So, for the city-led portion of e-bike charging, as we move forward, that's definitely a huge opportunity for us to get those materials in front of them. And even with the revocable consent process, where we, the city, don't actually have a contract with these companies. It's between the tenant or the landlord and the companies. We still have to see the same companies over and over again, and are involved in the approval process, so we can apply pressure there to make sure
So
that
I
they're
feel like
providing. Yeah,
right. It's a real point of leverage for the city to actually demand some new training that this private company can easily develop and create an app that will cost them no money to make whatsoever for access to these lockers.
Yeah, in addition, I think that was mentioned earlier, but are you reaching out to the garage and the parking lots? Because it seems that it would be a perfect, complementary kind of business where they can put that in the corner, the bikes come in, they pay, they charge, they go. And it would be in a space which is already dedicated to vehicle use. And I would suggest that this becomes your primary objective, as well as maybe a change in the law and in the rules of parking, which at a point of time had to provide some bike space. And here they would have to provide some charging space. And that would be in a place which makes sense. And I would love to see that evolving in that direction.
In the bike shops.
Yeah. Thanks, Christina. I think that's a thoughtful suggestion. There are a couple different things. One, the company, the charging providers are pretty hungry for locations, and I think they're doing a ton of outreach to all sorts of businesses to try to find places for these cabinets. The city does, like DOT does, also operate some city parking facilities, and so those could potentially be a location where we could look at having this technology, though generally they're, except for with a couple of exceptions, they're not in super heavy commercial corridors. I think there are bigger conversations still going on between us and the fire department of buildings about what the requirements for these cabinets being safely inside buildings are, and those are kind of still underway. So more to come on that one, but definitely hear the suggestion of sort of using car oriented spaces for this technology.
Just to flag that, if we're concerned about the safety of these being inside of a building, aren't we more concerned that they're on a public right of way?
Yeah, the explosion of faith.
That was a little, I don't know. I don't know if you meant to say it that way, but that's.
Just a quick suggestion. I mean, this is something that can be commercialized in the sense that, when people can actually rent spaces, we have commercial vacancy across the New York. Maybe
but that's what he's saying. He's saying their discussion with the DOB and the FDNY on the security inside is an issue. So,
Anyway, one last quick thing, you have bike shops across, city. This could be even sort of integrated with the bike shops too. Bikes, people actually go there more often than not.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just sort of on the topic of risk, I kind of want to emphasize that What's happening now is lots of people, including lots of delivery workers, are using unregulated or underregulated batteries, bringing them into their apartment buildings and charging them inside in an unsafe way, sometimes unsupervised, right? And so the goal of this program and a lot of other work we're doing is to get them to use safer batteries that, as we noted, the companies involved in our pilot used UL certified batteries, and so put those into the hands of the delivery worker using them. It's to get those batteries outside of buildings and, yes, into the public right away, but in an outdoor setting where they're less proximate to other flammable material. A fire outside is a lot easier to contain and suppress than a fire that can quickly spread throughout a building. So it's not that there's zero risk, but this is a huge risk reduction from what's going on right now.
And we do appreciate that. We think that's it.
You have a question and then
Here.
Yeah, regarding the swapping program, bike companies generally have various battery configurations. For example, the voltage configurations, such as 26, 36 volts and 48 volt voltage. I can't see you having the various sizes and volt configuration in these compartments there. How's that going to work in terms of, providing the various sizes and voltage configuration?
Yeah, that's a thoughtful question. I want to preface this with I'm not an electrical engineer. I think one of the key answers is just that for the battery swapping cabinets, sort of the business model that has come forward in New York City so far, the company owns all of the batteries, and so all of the batteries that are in circulation are compatible with the charging cabinets, right? It's just one battery type. And the cabinets only accept that battery owned by that company.
I just can't see that working well because I know a bit about batteries, bike batteries, and they come in different sizes, different shapes. And the workers themselves have different bikes.
That's true, yeah. They
I
definitely
just
do.
don't see you're going to have an array, and you have thousands of companies, and many of the companies are going out of business. So I don't know how that's going to be.
Yeah,
okay.
That's definitely true. There's some like product match work to do overall. There is a lot of similarity between a lot of the bikes that delivery workers use. There are a few extremely popular brands.
Thank you. So we're going to go to the public. Janine, can you move over? Ron and Carly, right?
And
Carrie.
Yeah, Ron and Carrie.
who wants to speak on this, now is the time to raise your hand, and Janine will move you over.
Okay, and Jim. Okay, so Ron, if you're around.
Ron, you're muted.
Hi,
Hello,
I just-
not Jim, not yet, no.
Not Jim.
Ron first, thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Hi, Tracy Christie, nice to see you. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm with the E-Vehicle Safety Alliance. We strongly oppose putting these stations anywhere on sidewalks in the city. Right now, we already have sidewalk space being taken up by bike racks, which have mounds of e-bikes chained to them, as you can see on 8th and 9th Avenue. Come over and see. I went to a community council meeting last night at Midtown North. A lady talked about how she's been trying to get a moped that's chained in front of her building to a rack for 7 months removed, and it's still there. And that's what's happening with these bikes around, and they're all batteries, and they're all sitting there waiting to explode. It's a minefield. Now these things, let me tell you how this works. I did some research, and the company that the DOT has contracted with for $12.5 million is called New Lab. It's a tech startup accelerator, it's called, and that reads as middleman. There are 3 companies that they are seeding to do this work. Pop Wheels, Swoby, which is known as the gas station for micro mobility. Now, let me say this. I don't own a car, never have. But if I had a car, I'd love to have a gas pump in front of my building to load it, to charge it. But that wouldn't be allowed because it would be very dangerous and it would be ridiculous. The other one, the CEO of Pop Wheels, his name is Baruch Hertzfeld. He says that they hope to have 1,000 charging stations citywide within 2 years. This is a subscription that people have to pay for, folks. Mr. Hertzfeld says that the subscription will cost $75 a month. You tell me what deliverista has an extra $75 a month to pay for charging. The DOT's pilot program, which Colleen and the other speakers talked about, there were only 1,000 people who took part in it, and that was free. It was free. Now how are you going to persuade these people to spend money? And where in this equation are their employers? I call them employers. They don't fess to that. DoorDash, Grubhub, etc. They're off the hook here. We're giving them more infrastructure on our streets so that they can make money by exploiting these poor people who are the deliveristas, who are breaking the law every day because they're forced to by algorithms, and they're endangering us. And now we're going to give more infrastructure to help them to make more money. You're not helping the deliveristas. They're being persecuted more with this program. Now, the other thing is, Jesse, God bless you. You said that advertising, education on these kids, that opportunity was missed with Lyft and City Bike, which I've been talking about for 3 years. Every time I talk to you, we need to get signs up. We need to get education. And we hopefully, Christine said, we're going to have a meeting with Lyft in the spring, and I pray we do so we can get something done. We're giving them everything. We get nothing back. And we're not asking for much. We're asking for signs. We're asking for apps. When you go to rent your battery, you take it out of the thing, and it says, do you know that you're not allowed to ride on sidewalks? Simple things like that, they resist. These things, I agree with Christine. You're absolutely right, Christine. They should be in parking garages. They should be at public places. Port Authority, Penn Station, Grand Central. What do you mean these people need them right in front of their buildings? Give me a break. Give me a break. You know what that's called? Doing errands. I'm going to do an errand. I'm going to get my battery charged. I'm going to the Port Authority. Then I'm going to work. You don't need to be everywhere. Come on. It's like having city bikes on every block. You mean to tell me you can't walk 2 blocks? I talked to you about this at one of your meetings. So anyway.
Yes, anyway. I think we got it.
Yeah, okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. I don't think we should, do we force them to respond to that or doing it?
No, wait, let me say one more thing about Joco. Now here, they're a good example of what to do.
Right, we mentioned that, we got it. Who's next? Janine,
Carrie? Hi, I'm here. Hi, everyone, thanks again. Totally echoing everything that Ron said, totally echoing NYC EBSA steering committee member here again. Christine, could not agree with you more. Do not belong on the sidewalks. We already have enough problems with e-bikes on the sidewalks. The DOT, I have a question for Grace and Patrick and Ms. Chattergoon. When was this presented to any community board and where was the feedback? I'd like to see that. I'm sorry, but not sorry. The DOT is well known for not reporting things accurately, skewing statistics and not presenting clear information and then avoiding the questions. I dealt with that all day on December 11th with Adonis Rodriguez. I don't believe this was ever presented. And if it was, I'd like to see where the feedback was. Not one altercation reported. To whom? By whom? Where's the stats on this? What is this? Patrick, I'm sorry. There was no answer to that because I don't think there was any. I don't think there was an answer. Jesse, absolutely. God bless you again. Thank you for the suggestion, for education, for can't ride on the sidewalk, can't go the wrong way, have to watch out for people. We already, as Ron said, not to reiterate everything he said, I do have other points. We already have enough problem with e-bikes on the sidewalks. If we could put these way west, as Christine said, parking garages, empty lots, way west, way east, if that's what it's going to be, then that's fine. But the private capture of public space, we're fed up with it, because, especially because it's dangerous. Another thing I want to say is sustainability. What's the sustainability of a battery that is not biodegradable? What's happening with these? Seriously, there is no way that these can be disposed of. So, I mean, we're creating something that is potentially a landfill nightmare. I mean, and then what? Another disease. All that said, I agree with Christine and many people, opinions expressed on the board. These don't belong on the sidewalks. We already have enough trouble. Also, again, taking up precious public space. Another person mentioned that. It is a premium already. Why do we need something in front of the building? Why? And Jesse, thank you so much again for mentioning to the DOT that who has done absolutely nothing to promote safety of e-vehicles. All I hear of is how to make something easier for the deliverista, which in some cases I understand because the apps don't make it any easier for them. But we need to, as a city, be watching out for pedestrians and other people. I'm a cyclist and I'm terrorized by e-bikes all the time. Why do we continue to cater to an industry that doesn't follow rules? This is just going to be another thing that's a problem. Thank you so much, everyone, again.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Carrie. And thank you, Ron. Let's let Jim go.
I just want to say that we did send a letter to the community board about the Locker NYC program implementation. So this was sent on April 3rd, 2024, just so you know. I will forward that to the community board again. Yes, I will send that to Christine.
Okay.
Thank
Jim,
you.
go ahead.
Jim?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple of quick comments. One, I'm an architect, and I think it's really important to understand that street furniture like this, it's not really street furniture. This is actually a maintenance type facility. And in addition to the locker itself, there will be, street activity in front of it. There'll be bikes. And so I do agree that it's really inappropriate for a regular sidewalk. Locating it next to appropriately located city bike charging e-bike stations, I think makes sense. I could see public plazas, large public plazas that have spaces that could accommodate this. And I'm thinking, if you're familiar with Broadway at 25th Street, there's a large city bike station there that there'd be ample room for something like this. And I do feel like this is really more of a public utility rather than a private utility. So I think it's really the city's responsibility to be providing these services, unless it's located within a parking garage or some other facility. The other question I had, and this is just a point of information, with a revocable consent, does the community have the ability to go back after the fact if something is approved through the boards and then through the city? Does the community have the ability to pull back their consent? And if there is a problem location, that could actually be removed rather than just staying there forever? Just a question, because it seems to me that the potential for problems here is really pretty high. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Joe. And we'll allow, good question, so we'll allow him to answer.
Colleen or the DOT people, do you have an answer for this consent question?
Not really.
How do you revoke a consent?
Yeah, thanks. I admit, I don't have the like firm details of the process for revoking a revocable consent in front of me, and happy to get back to you with that. But I think we're going to be paying a lot of attention to conflicts or complaints, especially as the first locations go in. Look, this will be a test case, and street safety continues to be the guiding mission of our agency. And so if this presents a lot of problems, we will use the tools we have to address them.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to try to summarize what we heard. First, everybody thinks that this is a necessary program and a good program from a safety standpoint. And we don't want to have buildings on fire, right? And families out of buildings. But it's more of an issue of process and siting and location. And so as far as process, we're talking about, I don't know whether we want, I didn't hear that, but we want at least the DOT to consider the clear path and the guidelines they have internally and respect that, not only for the cabinet, but for the people in front of the cabinet, right? Our preference would be to put it on a roadway, next to bike share, in garage, in parking, bike shops, and in places which are not in conflict with pedestrian or which. Secondly, we don't want those things to become billboard, but at the same time, we would like these things or these company to create a safety application, safety app, so that as you are recharging, you are getting a little bit of education every time, and DOT could provide that content. And so this is, generally what we talked about, right?
I think so. Next to bike infrastructure that for electrically charged to the extent we can.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, bike share, electric, etc. We can add after that. We can add everything that we said.
And what other things are missed?
Well, I'm gonna, I feel like we don't have the discussion, but we have questions, but. I 100% agree with the idea that there's just simply the space of the sidewalk, and given that we've had a number of times where DOT has overridden our recommendation not to grant locations, for example, we've got Flix Bus coming up. They got a bus stop, we were asking it to be farther down the street, so I'm concerned that if the path is open for such a infrastructure to go on the sidewalk, it might come even against our recommendation, so I wouldn't even want to have this as an option. To me, it's about the city missing the mark on how to address the issue. If the goal is we don't want fires in buildings, so first we need to be able to show that the people who are using this program are the people who would otherwise be taking the batteries home. I'm not so sure that that's who's being reached. So there needs to be more research on that. But I think the biggest issue that we have our rep here, a liaison to our rep here, that because this is a big city council issue, there needs to be more onus put on the for-profit businesses that this is supporting. We had a similar conversation with the EV charging for vehicles. The motor cars with gasoline weren't getting free gas on the gas tanks on the sidewalk. Why would we do the same thing for electric? The businesses that are doing the deliveries, whether it's a restaurant or any food production that relies primarily on deliveries for their business, the delivery apps, the Grow Hubs and all those, if that's their business's delivery, they should be the ones providing. It's not just the batteries and the charging, it's the bathrooms and the rest stations, because those are basically contract employees that they're using to make the money. That's really where it should be, in my opinion. not on a public sidewalk. So the fundamental reason why I began to,
Right.
just the sidewalk issue is, I see this as
A
public
manifestation.
space
Right.
going to support private industry rather than using public resources, legislation and whatnot to make sure that the industries that are providing services are also providing the safe infrastructure to take care of those batteries that we want to make sure are gonna be safe. So.
Got
that's fine.
it, got it. Right. Was that Viren, wasn't it?
Just very quickly, I mean, this to echo what Brad was saying, it's a commercial venture, and if we don't allow people to set up gas stations on the sidewalk, why would we actually set up battery charging and swapping stations on the sidewalk, number one? If we don't allow Coke and Pepsi vendor vending machines on the sidewalk, we used to allow that, we stopped that. And I think that's a good thing. I think it should follow the same procedure. It's profit making. They will have to find a place for it. They can make deals with bike shops and restaurants and other places that they can find, the appropriateness for this type of installation, or city can make room for it on what is actually the sort of bike infrastructure.
Right.
Road back.
Yes.
Yeah, I like what Max's idea was, and so, but let me just try to, and you said it, but I wanna make it stronger. People have actually died from these fires, even when the bikes aren't charging, they get, if they're the illegal batteries, there's been loss of life. I've spoken with fire marshals personally, I know people that are involved in these, and they're like massive explosions, it's not like you have time to do it. So this is very dangerous and it's life safety. It's not just, well, you lose your apartment, you lose your life. So I don't know maybe if we can mainstream a lot of these batteries. So they're not illegal, I'm assuming the charging stations be able to do that in public spaces such as city bike spaces, or because we don't want to take up valuable sidewalk, but we should emphasize more of that. People have really lost their lives in the past.
Yeah, I think everybody's very much aware of that. Right.
It's horrendous what's happened, so this is an ideal goal, but I mean, if DOT takes our ideas, it'll go up well, if they don't, it'll not go up well.
So you had something? Or?
No, I just wanted, my suggestion would be the way we write the letter, it should be to DOT, but I think we should be considering CCing all of the private companies associated with both buildings, lockers, and the actual delivery apps as well. So to the amount that we can work them in to being part of this whole process. So I think the audience for the letter should just be bigger than just the DOT.
I will also CC Chief Fire Marshal Dan Flynn.
Okay, so I listed a bunch of things. Did I list everything? Yeah, safety, etc. So do we have a motion on that?
Make a motion.
Yes.
Can I just ask,
Yes.
are we saying that we support this program or we don't support this program? Or the letter is not gonna address?
That's a good question. I would think that we are supporting having, a program that avoid loss of life, right? But it does, but the way it is being rolled out, which, Max said is really not appropriate because it does not fulfill a number of conditions that we think are minimal.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of like.
Yeah.
The way I imagine the letter unfolding is we support the intent and the idea of this program,
Right.
but we have serious concerns. Here are our concerns.
Right.
That's probably.
Is this an approved conditions?
Well, we can't approve of anything or not.
I mean, this is not up to our approval. It's just
our
a general.
But that's the framework we usually.
Yes,
have.
yeah.
Not us, because it's approved.
No, it's approved
Which one
with
of those four
condition.
is it?
It's approved with condition.
We're giving strong
So
recommendations.
do we have a second here? Now that we know what we're doing? Yeah, that's good. Second, all in favor? Okay, so I want to raise a related issue, which is part of this, which is DOT continue to approve projects and ideas and consent, which are not following the clear path guidelines. And what I would like to do is to say, at least for DOT, and I think it should be for every agency in the city, that whatever placement they do on the sidewalk must respect the clear path guideline, because clear path is now the new, the new guideline. And I love us to make a resolution to send it to Eric Butcher and say, we would like to send you to pass a bill which says that's the rule. The rule is like, whether you put a garbage container or this or that, we cannot make a rule for everything. But the rule we know, which is very clear, is the one we use in open dining, and which is the new guideline of the DOT, which is you don't give a consent if it's not clear path and clear path, because so clear path should become the standard protection for the pedestrians. And yeah, it is in the bill, and it would be in, voted, and then each of the, maybe the agency would have 1 year to adjust their rules and measurements. And now we have the clear path and the pedestrian mobility plan becoming a real action plan, which it is in open dining, but it doesn't look like anybody else is following it.
And one of the things I can suggest is that, it should remain pedestrian mobility focused, and any vehicle, including bike related stuff, should not be left every day.
Yeah, but we need to go beyond that. We need to go to all the furniture, because people say, oh, it's a furniture. So we need to have all the furniture, like, the sanitation, the 3 bags, the 3 containers, which are there during the whole day. I mean, people should have measured whether there is a.
Do we want to hear from Patrick on this, or you just raised his hand?
Oh, Patrick, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I appreciate you bringing this back up. I wanted to share this earlier, and I think I got sidetracked on something else. So absolutely right, clear path, a critically important thing, and something that we are required to provide. I do just want to draw your attention, Christine. I know you're familiar with DOT's Street Design Manual, a resource where
Yes.
among many other things, we communicate the clearance requirements from a bunch of different street furniture, and the clear path requirements. So there's in the furniture section of the street design manual, there's a handy graphic that sort of specifies the clearances that these charging cabinets and other street furniture will have to have from basically everything that's already on the street. It also specifies, a 5-foot minimum clear path in low
But
pedestrian
again,
traffic environment.
again, you're saying a 5-foot minimum, but you know what? In the pedestrian mobility plan, the minimum is 8 foot. And on
Yeah,
9th Avenue, it's 10 foot. So what I'm saying is that you have a bunch of books which are telling you old stuff. And then there is a new book which says it should be 10 feet. So we need to have everybody coming up the curve and correcting their books.
So what
Yeah.
Christine is basically telling us is that we need to be consistent.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. In high pedestrian volume environments like your entire community board, the
In
minimum is 8 feet.
every pedestrian environment,
Yes,
which is
yeah.
besides
The minimum is 8 feet in those locations. Absolutely. So
Right.
just affirming that applies to these cabinets as well.
But does it say, for example, 10 feet on 9th Avenue?
I am not personally familiar with requirements for 9th Avenue, but if there's a requirement that we've specified for 9th Ave that says a 10-foot minimum, that would apply here, yeah.
Okay, because it's not written in your notice, so we'd like to have clarification on that. All right, so I'd like to have a second motion to do that, to really request a bill which is more encompassing.
I think this is already in the administrative code of the city though. I think I forget what number it is, but I think it's the admin code for the city where it can't be below ADA requirements. I don't think it gives a hard.
ADA requirements is 3 feet.
Well, yeah, I don't think it gives a hard number.
That's my
But we should
point.
take a look at what that code
No,
says.
but my point is that
Yeah.
now there is a new number, and it's not a hard number, it's a number depending on corridors.
Yeah.
Right, which is more reasonable. So the DOT just spent 3 years creating that. Now we have to take that and put it in operation.
But they can, for the motion could be to expand that code or make that code clearer what the next
Right.
reads.
So you are saying that's what you're saying, where
Yeah,
it
don't make
is.
something new, just make it
Got
what
it.
it actually means, yeah.
I got it. That's very good. So may I have a motion on that? Okay. Second, all in favor? Great.
Also, you might want to CC Sandra Norris and Adrian Adams, speaker and the transportation committee.
Send me an email. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DOT. That was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And we are passionate about it, as you can see.
You'll love to see it.
Thank you.
Conversation about the presentation.
Right. Okay, the next item is Empire Clean Cities to present on sustainable last mile deliveries.
Great.
Is
Hello,
that
everyone.
How are
Hi,
you?
Sandra, thanks for your patience.
I'm going to share my screen. Everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Rothbard. I am a partner on a project with Empire Clean Cities. I am not directly working in Empire Clean Cities. Little bit of background before I get into this. I am an urban planner. I am a former community board member myself, Brooklyn Community Board 2. Some of the best years. I am also a former DOT employee in the Office of Freight Mobility, worked for a couple of other city agencies, and now I do my own private consulting with public sector, private, nonprofit on everything related to last mile delivery. And so I'm here today to talk you through a project that we are doing on middle mile and last mile utilizing multimodal transportation. And thank you so much for including me. Okay, so this is a project that involves cargo bikes and ferries. We are piloting this in New York City through a grant from the Department of Energy. We are working closely with DOT and EDC as they are trying to encourage more movement via maritime vessels as part of their Blue Highway program. But this is actually fully funded by the federal government. So no need to explain to you some of the...
Yes.
Yeah. How much of,
well, yeah. No comment as of right now. Yeah. So right now...
on how much of the funds you've received thus far, like, are you waiting on all of the funds from?
No, we don't get it all in one big chunk, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the way that the cookie crumbles. We'll see. But yeah, fingers crossed. So I don't have to explain to you the big challenges with congestion, and won't talk about what happened today. We also know that there's significant underutilized maritime infrastructure. New York City has more coastline than Miami, LA, San Francisco, and Boston combined. And we often forget it is a water city. So we've always moved goods by water, but usually some of the bigger, heavier, dirtier things, and not nearly as much as we used to. And we know we have new modes that are becoming more and more common in New York City and also around the world in terms of cargo bikes. So how do we bring all these things together to help make deliveries better? So we are supposed to be getting $999,000 via grant from the federal government. Empire Clean Cities is the project lead. They are technically a 501c3 organization that was created by the Department of Energy. There are, I think, 70 throughout the country, and they are focused mostly on green transportation. They physically sit with the freight office at DOT, New York City DOT, but they are a separate organization entirely. Barretto Bay is a consulting firm. It's done a lot of work in the South Bronx. Freight Matters is myself. The Manhattan Beer Distributors, they are our shipper, so they're the ones that are actually bringing in the goods that we are going to be piloting to move. They are one of the biggest single source like beer distributor company in the country. They're one of like the top 4. So if you're drinking a beer in Manhattan, it's probably coming from them. We have Sustainable Cargo Solutions, formerly known as The Hub. They are actually importing bicycles for us. Net Zero Logistics already does a lot of movement by cargo bike. They actually do the physical runs. And then Green City Force is going to help us with some workforce development locally. So the timeline is phase one, we are going to move goods on cargo bikes on top of ferries. Move them from point A to point B. Phase one, moving goods from Red Hook to Governor's Island. Phase two, we have an image here, move goods from Hunts Point in the Bronx to Lower Manhattan. And phase three, expand it to other parts of the city. And so we are supposed to have a full 3-year project. Obviously, the goal is to reduce congestion, pollution, emissions, improve safety, and create some really good jobs. So currently, the practice is Manhattan Beer Distributors, they have warehouses all over the region. One of them is in Hunts Point. For those of you who are not familiar, Hunts Point in the South Bronx is a huge industrial area. We have the different food markets. We have produce, fish, and meat markets there right along the water, as well as a lot of other warehousing. And so right now, they have trucks coming from the warehouse, driving all the way through Manhattan to the Brooklyn Maritime Building, the Battery Maritime Building, rather. And then they roll on the truck onto the Corson Ferry, float over to Governor's Island, roll off. They make their runs to whatever vendors they have on Governor's Island. And as you know, there are some businesses that are year round now, but it's primarily in the summer, sort of May through Labor Day or so. And then when they're done, they get back on the Corson, which is managed by the Trust for Governor's Island. They head back to the Battery Maritime Building. If they have any additional runs in Manhattan to make, they will. And then they go all the way back to Hunts Point. It's incredibly inefficient for all obvious reasons. So what we are doing for the pilot is utilizing their other warehouse. That is, you can see Governor's Island from their property, but unfortunately, they've never been able to move goods there because there was no ro-ro type of vessel that could go between their facility in Brooklyn to Governor's Island. But a great solution is, well, what if we use something smaller, like cargo bikes? And so the plan is, actually move goods by cargo bike to Pier 11, which is an Atlantic Basin, put on a ro-ro vessel, go to Governor's Island, do the runs, and come back to Brooklyn. And so the cargo bikes that we are utilizing are Fulpras. They are from the Netherlands, no surprise. They're the leader in cargo bike and bicycling in general. They come in different shapes and sizes, high capacity, incredibly safe. You can limit the speed on them. The city DOT has a limit of 15 miles an hour. It can handle a lot of weight, and this is used by brands around the world. We also, one of the great things about Fulpra is you can also have a removable rack. A lot of these are custom. You can do what you want with this company. And one nice thing is this can come out and make deliveries very easy and can actually be secured to the ferry on their own. So one of the great things about these ferries is you actually don't need a truck ro-ro capability, as I mentioned, and these racks can go on without the bikes. And the bikes can be at either side. You can leave one in Brooklyn, we can leave one on Governor's Island, or you can actually move a bike on the ferry itself. So this is a pilot we did. We actually moved kegs of beer. You're surprised how much you can fit in these. And so we had a forklift at the warehouse in Brooklyn, loaded 6 kegs, still plenty of room there. And then rowed it. See, it doesn't take up much space. And this is actually a ferry that takes passengers too. So it's co-located cargo hitching. Our next pilot is going to be really looking at just putting the racks and seeing how much more we can actually fit. If in the future we're able to get a barge that doesn't also co-locate passengers, we can put cargo bikes directly and fit several on one vessel. So some of the ongoing projects are, how do we build out our partnerships? Again, we want to expand to a route from Hunts Point to Lower Manhattan, not necessarily just Manhattan beer distributors, but the Fulton Fish Market. We want to expand our commodities, our shippers, carriers, and the like. Again, we're working closely with DOT and EDC on utilizing this as a great pilot and showcase for the Blue Highway efforts more broadly. Goal is to have delivery service this season on Governor's Island. And then obviously we're going to better understand lessons learned, work with folks around the world that we're learning lessons from, and see how we can make this a really great success. So it's a very quick overview. Happy to take any questions. So again, this is my email. Lauren is the project manager from Empire Clean Cities, so wanted to put her information on here as well. And the Empire Clean Cities website. We don't have anything formal online yet because we're still sort of pre-pilot phase. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Sandra. Yes.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I'm curious about your Green City Force on the project team. Could you talk about that? And then it looks like I just did a quick Google search, and what I'm really interested in is the work they do with NYCHA. So is there a hope or potential to help young adults or adults in general find jobs?
Yes, so that's the goal. So specifically green jobs and specifically local. So we want to have folks from Red Hook for this pilot phase to help work on this project. We're not there yet. We're just now beginning some of the stakeholder engagement. First, we wanted to make sure these things even worked, could handle the load, but we've started talking with Green City Force and are building out our stakeholder engagement plan right now.
And what will you do? Go into NYCHA? Or how's that relationship?
Yeah, we also we work through them because they are, the prime partners. We want to work with environmental justice community organizations as well. So everybody that we can, reaching out to electeds, community boards, and the like.
Thank you.
Yes, Brett.
I'm curious, so how many trucks typically would go across the, just the return railroad trucks go across the Governor's Island on a typical day?
Just one. There's not enough vendors, but that's still one big truck that's going all the way through Manhattan.
But are there other trucks that are going on there with that same trip?
There are other vehicles that are also bringing in goods because folks, vendors that are selling food, they need their paper towels, right? Not just their beer and whatever other commodities, which is why we want to see what else can we bring, right? Can we bring over all sorts of goods? Yes?
Okay, and so and this might be a really stupid question. So, forgive me if it's stupid, but if there are other vendors that would also benefit from bringing railroad trucks over to Governor's Island, why, instead of inventing a whole new system for bringing bikes and things like that, could they just make one trip with the boat to the Red Hook dock and load up trucks there for that one trip across?
Do you mean other folks bring their trucks to Red Hook, consolidate and move over?
Yeah, just do a special run over from Red Hook instead of having to create a whole new system with several bikes and several people bringing it over. So it would be a more efficient use of labor if one person, got a crew of 2 people driving a truck around instead of cargo bikes. And all you gotta do is just bring a boat that already exists to a different dock from
Let me see if I understand this correctly, and please correct me. So are you saying that other trucks that would go on a railroad to Governor's Island instead have all those vehicles come to Red Hook?
Well, if there are warehouses on the Manhattan side and there's warehouses on the Brooklyn side, so just schedule a boat from the Brooklyn side, put it at the dock and load it up there for delivery.
But I think the objective is, tell me if I'm wrong, the objective is that once you get on Governor Island, you want to have a vehicle which is lower pollution. So that's why you want to have the bikes going to the different location to deliver there, right? It's not about aggregation of deliveries.
Well, they can do the electric.
But that is, yes, that is correct. But there are also other projects that DOT is working on for consolidating goods, generally speaking.
But it's not just about this one particular project. It's
So exactly. So there's a micro hub program that DOT is launching as well.
Yes.
I think this is so flipping cool, and it's about time we start talking about our waterfront, not just about recreation anymore, but the working harbor is so important to an archipelago like New York City, and this is just amazing.
All right.
What I'm really curious about, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this, because it sounds like you guys really are doing your homework on this. We still have a 30% per head subsidy on these ferries by paying passengers. Are these goods being priced so they pay EDC for when the goods are on the ferry, or are they just riding for free?
So that's a great question. Right now, we're working with a bunch of different vessel operators to also figure out which ferry is the best.
Awesome.
We haven't
And
like made a final decision yet because obviously the model has to be there so that it makes economic sense for them to take us.
that's awesome. And, you know, these ferries also start at like 6 a.m. and they go to like 9 p.m. In the downtime, these ferries are not operating paid passenger service. Is there thought about doing overnight freight service to maximize the value of these ferries?
Again, we're working on that model right now. I mean, that's going to be part of, you know, each phase is trying to figure out this business model so it can expand throughout the city. But yeah, I mean, overnight deliveries is something that we do in New York City already with trucks and trying to improve that. And it's really up to Governor's Island too for this particular pilot, right? Phase 1. And again, you know, it's really just seasonal for now, which is why it's a really great place for a pilot. It totally depends on the vendors and, you know, their interest in receiving.
No, it's cool that we have now these docks for these ferries and dockhead. They all have ramps that goods can easily be transferred down. And this is just really exciting. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was information only.
Nothing to vote on?
No,
Yeah,
nothing to vote on.
Mr. Wright, we have a member of the public who'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Jim Wright.
Jim?
Janine, can you move Jim over?
There's a hand up in the audience, on the.
Yeah.
It's a good program. I don't see what I'll ask about.
Hi, thanks for letting me join in again remotely. Jim Wright, Chelsea resident, architect, and Sandra, you may remember we worked a little bit together on the AIA.
Delivering the goods.
Yes, right. Okay. Great to see this moving into a actionable enterprise. And I'd love to connect with you, so I'll follow up. Question specific to Community Board 4. Have you looked at any of the piers along the Hudson? And I'm thinking about Pier 40, Pier 76 as possible locations. And when you say you're using ferries, are they using the passenger ferries in the city, or are these other ferry vehicles?
So the first question, I mean, everything is an opportunity. We're going to look at everything for expansion phase 3. Nothing is off limits, off the table. And then your second question, so for the Governor's Island pilot, we have started looking at co-locating with passenger ferries, with passengers rather, and we're looking at all different operators, both EDC with New York City Ferry, as well as some of the private sectors, and then hoping to build out even more non-passenger ferries or barges so we can really increase the capacity and efficiency beyond Governor's Island, of course, when we're moving more goods to more places.
Yeah, I mean, there is obvious conflicts of moving freight and passengers on the same vehicles. There's a limitation of just how much freight you can get on a vehicle.
Yep.
And the loading and unloading requirements are different for passengers versus freight. So
absolutely,
you know all of that.
Yeah,
but I'm glad to see these pilots. I really encourage exploring any way that this can expand.
Great, thank you. And you can see in this lower right photo, you know, it's not taking up a lot of space. It still obviously allows for egress and ingress and safety for passengers. We'll have even more room if we're using racks instead. And so trying to figure out how to strap those down really quickly so that the dwell times aren't too long and we don't want to inconvenience passengers, which is why if we could, you know, have a freight only barge or ferry in the future, that'd be even better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are going to move on because
Presentation and vote on Intercity Bus Permit Application. Thank you for having waited such a long time.
Thank you for your patience.
So we have looked at, can you just tell us just a little bit about the the operation and where you're
Yeah.
going?
Sure, and we sent Janine, the presentation we put together on this.
Okay.
Right.
Janine,
And it's
bring it
usually
up.
best just for the microphone's sake. You
Yeah,
know,
we were
stand
gonna
like kind
come
of
over
right
here,
up
that
here.
was the
Yeah.
plan.
Great.
We'll try not to block.
No, don't go that far.
That way.
I'm gonna stay
Over
with
here. Just kidding, sorry.
All right.
So, just very quickly before we start, 'cause it's not touched upon here, but understanding that certainly the importance, just want to quickly preface that we do see the Port Authority as ultimately the goal for us. We have run into issues, capacity issues, really from the get-go for Flix starting in, New York City. We are continuing to have conversations with the Port Authority to try and get access into the building. We most recently had a rejection from them in January, just due to the redevelopment program. So that's limiting their capacity. Just a quick preface. So why are we here? So just a quick note, Flix Bus is describe ourselves as a mobility provider. What this means is we don't own or operate the buses actually. So these are the operators that we work with to actually provide the bus service, and they own and operate the vehicles, employ the drivers. Just a quick note on the Flix side and why there's a bunch of operators up there. Can you next slide? Great, okay, so who's here today? So hi, my name is Francesca Waldman. I am the team lead for our Government Affairs and Strategic Partnerships team. So I oversee a lot of our work in New York as it relates to both government and community outreach, and our work with the different agencies and also quasi-government entities like the Port Authority. Nelson, do you want to introduce yourself?
Nelson, I'm the team lead, regional operations for the New York area and most of the East Coast. So I deal with a lot with the Midtown Tunnel, Midtown line.
We also have Katie Tuhai, our head of government affairs and real estate, present with us tonight. And then, as you may also know, Christian DiPalermo, we've been working with, particularly on these curbsides, from CDB Strategies. He is, yep, online, joining us virtually. So that's who's here. And next slide. Great, so just, again, these are the operators, whose applications are submitted. Again, this is currently the way that the process works. It must be the operator, so, they've each submitted their applications and really appreciate y'all working with us to try and find a way to make this process work for the Flix model. So just, their US DOT numbers are up there and the application numbers are up there. Again, for reference, I'll also share this afterwards if y'all would like that. Cool, all right, next slide. Great, so just the location that we're talking about and we're proposing is the location that the address, I think that was on there, is 650 West 34th Street. This was the site that was used by Megabus from 2012 to summer of last year. So just, it's been used for Intercity Bus for the past 12 years until again last year. 3 spaces, that's kind of the deal. Yeah. Next slide, G. Okay, cool, great. So just very quickly, we are basically proposing to use exactly the same space that Megabus previously had. So 3 bus spaces, following similar routing, basically same location, same routes. That's really what we're looking to mirror, keep things consolidated. Again, the use that's been the case for the past 12 years in that space is what we're looking to mirror.
Not unless it's the Judicial Conduct Commission.
Next slide. Just also want to quickly touch on routing, and please let me know if you see that okay. Basically, we're proposing the most direct possible route to and from the Lincoln Tunnel. The goal is to get the bus in and out via the Lincoln Tunnel as quickly as possible, not trying to utilize any streets that they wouldn't absolutely need to take in order to reach 34. Great, okay. Next slide. Fantastic. Okay, so this is the schedule that was submitted. This is a breakdown by hour of the number of buses we expect to see in space. Just calling out that our hours of service, you'll see on the next slide with the full schedule, start at 6:30 and the last bus at 11:35. Try to touch on the build time there for how long the buses are expect them to be there. Just want to quickly note, it does say 4, but just given the timing, this is 3 buses. There will not be 4 buses in the space. There are 3 bus spaces, 3 buses maximum at a time. Cool. All right. Next slide. Schedule. So you probably got this in some pieces. We tried to also send over the schedule consolidated also, but just this is what it looks like to bring the all 5 schedule applications together, so you can see what this looks like. Just mostly want to just bring the attention to the Sunday and Friday, which are the peak days of service when we have basically every slot filled in. At some point, we may, just given the Flix model, if we bring in another operator, it may be something where we would come in to fill in some of the space with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Monday, but just trying to keep it within these hours. And again, 3 buses maximum ever at a time. Really trying even not to get close to that. Understanding, I think Megabus maybe had like every 15 minutes service, but we're not. Cool, I'm seeing faces that are like, no,
We're fine with your.
So far over.
Go ahead.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we're gonna just keep going.
Great. All right, and then just the next slide, I'm gonna turn it over to Nelson.
All right, just for the operation point of this, we'll also have stanchions to line up the passengers per departure. We'll have on-site staff to direct and assist passengers as well. We'll do our regular cleaning. We'll also have enough signage there so passengers can know exactly where the location is. So this is basically what Megabus, and we're adding some more stuff as if you just go to the next slide, please. So on top of the on-site staff, we also have 24/7 dispatch and customer service. So our dispatch, what we call them traffic control, they have full network visibility of in real time, so we can track the buses. We know when they're running late or when they're running on time. So in case of any issues, operational issues, traffic control could talk to the drivers or talk to the staff on site and vice versa. So we can update the passengers live and while they're there in case something is running late due to traffic. And on top of that, we also have our 24/7 customer support. We have live agents 24/7 in multiple languages, and they call, passengers call in, they can also double check trip delays, stop location descriptions if they can't find the stop. ADA related requests, also modify their ticket reservations, or get rebooked. So we have enough staff there, plus an on-site staff, so they can always reach someone at any time. And next slide, I believe will be. Yeah, and then just something for the passengers, the onboard experience, they got real-time tracking, trash collection, free Wi-Fi, bathrooms, as everything.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
okay,
Yeah.
David.
Are you staying at your location on 8th Avenue or you moving?
Yeah, so we are staying at the lot. This is to reduce the congestion over there, so all the trips that are, we just showed.
So the answer is yes, you'll keep.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Okay.
I rode past your location today on 8th Avenue, it's much cleaner. So I noticed that.
All right.
So I had mentioned it a while back, but the other thing is, on your buses, let's say I wanna bring my bike, put it underneath, will I be allowed to go to, let's say, I don't know what city, let's hypothetically Philly, bring my bike, and then I can bike while I'm in Philly and come back, it would be bike.
Are you accepting bikes as
Yeah.
luggage?
That is a good question. I will have to double check what our current policy is in the States. In Europe, we do have bike racks on some of the buses, but we don't have them here in the States. So I will check and I can give you all an answer.
Who's
If
next?
you can consider that.
Who's
that'd be
next?
great.
Yeah,
Right, so you're keeping your lot, but you're also planning to keep the stop, the location you have for stops on 34th Street for loading and unloading?
so these locations plus the lot. Is
So
that
you're
the
saying
same?
you're gonna have the lot and also the stops on 34th Street and the ones on 34th Street?
No, they don't have one on 34th.
I thought there was one on,
No.
there were buses.
On 34th Street, it's Gunter and
No, on
somebody else.
on 31st Street.
Oh, 31st.
On 31st Street.
Yeah,
But there are two different companies now which are back in business. So they don't have that stuff anymore, right?
so we do
Kind.
have it, but it's only one of our operators that has the.
Oh, that's
the
what-
bid
So
that
you're
we-
gonna have, you would have locations on both streets.
Yeah.
You're gonna basically have 4 stops now.
No, we
it's
will have
three.
the midtown lot, the curbside next to it, and then.
Yeah, so there's a
Yeah.
curbside.
Yeah.
So when we had that application in front of us for the stop on 31st Street, we requested that it be closer mid-block instead of where it is now. One of the issues that happens very often is there will be cars that are loading, unloading, where they're not supposed to be in your spot, but the buses will stand there and honk their horn, waiting for the car to leave, and then everything backs up onto 8th Avenue. I've seen an emergency vehicle once stuck behind one of the Flix buses that had vehicles behind it, an ambulance. So, would you be willing to move that stop more towards
Further west.
on 31st Street,
On the
place that's
31st.
safer and would relieve some of the congestion closer to 8th Avenue?
I mean, I think we'd be open to moving it down the street. I know that there's the competing concern of the taxis, which may.
There's a
Yeah.
much bigger issue that, believe me, I'm.
But let me
Well,
ask,
I guess, yeah.
let me ask a question, why, if you are going to get that
Sorry.
big location,
Yeah.
why do you need to
31st.
continue to have the 31st Street curbside? I mean, you know, because that would be a huge benefit to the community that you don't use that anymore.
Yeah, I can take this one. So from our side, it's trying to balance what we have in terms of being a business and having, you know, a number of trips that we can offer at different times so people can travel. And certainly we have still quite a few peaks that we're trying to accommodate, which is why we would like to continue to use the 31st Street location in addition to 34th. Trying to use 34th to pull some of this stuff away from 34th.
Well, what pulling it away would be close the stop. That would pull it away right away.
I appreciate the comment. Yeah, we can, I mean. I know we've gotten just the extension on it, but I think it's something that we can entertain looking at when we get back around to the. Permit again.
Or I said, you're just making it your priority to.
Yeah.
Knowing that, you know, as you've opened up 34th Street. And you just said that's to
Yeah.
reduce congestion in the lot and you know, to make sure that.
Yeah.
This is about, even if it means adding more congestion back into the lot a little bit, we'd rather have that than on 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess in fairness to like the people who take the bus, most people are taking the subway and that's on 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue, 6th Avenue. People have luggage, maybe they brought their bike with them, right? So they're just saying all these people, guess what, now you need to move all the way to 11th Avenue.
It's the 7, it's right
Right.
next to the 7, there's a subway right there.
Sure, but that's not the train that everybody's taking, right? So.
Well, I mean, it's not, no, we
Yeah,
need to make
if you don't take
statistics
the
about
two Penn
which
Station,
train they
take
take.
another, they're not gonna take a second train to 10th Avenue.
I'll also add that there is not part of Flix, which is the other.
No, that's Gunter,
That's
there is
not
another.
part of
I guess my, you know, the, and this is before we talk about the location.
Yeah.
Cause the other issue, when Megabus was there, I mean, they were on 9th Avenue, so they had to move because
Yeah.
of the construction of Manhattan West. But one of the big issues, that sidewalk while they were operating, especially as more and more people. Residents, tourists are going back and forth on that sidewalk, became almost unpassable. Because between the bus lines and the food vendors that are not actually supposed to be there, that's another issue, but, unless you can find a way to keep all the food vendors off of that street.
Wait, we changed.
I'm just saying, the issue.
What was the closure of your first
Oh,
item? I'm kind of lost.
Okay, well, we're hitting them all at the same time. Yeah, no, I guess what I'm Well, I first wanted to establish that they were intending to keep all the
Yeah,
locations.
and
so that
we
was
got
first.
that, right.
But on 34th Street, when you're noting Megabus goes there, are there things that you had noticed from the operation that you think you could do better to keep that sidewalk clear, unlike what was happening when Megabus was there?
Yeah, so one thing is we have less schedules than Megabus does right now, used to have, so they have back-to-back schedules. We have a much reduced schedule where we're just, like we said before, just move some buses out of 31st Street for congestion. So I think we're not gonna have that many passengers there. Most of them will be at the 31st Street lot, but we'll just have a few schedules throughout the day on there, so we won't have maximum, I think during peak hours, we only had 3 buses departing at once, so, but.
Yeah, but you show the schedule like nearly every 15 minutes or every hour during the.
Yeah.
Yes, every hour.
So don't tell us you're not going to have so many. I mean, we're.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm against the idea, we need options for people to leave without having to take personal cars, and so we're, I think,
And we'll staff it if needed, and we'll look at the schedule, we could do adjustments as we go, if we do see that.
I think what he's asking is that where are going to be the stanchion and how much space is left for the, what's the answer to that?
So I think from our side, we've been over, we continue to, like, our office is also in this area, so we have walked over there. And I've taken Megabus past too. I don't know that we have an exact answer for where we can do it, but we can go over there and measure it out and decide exactly where and how much to.
Yeah, you need to leave.
Right, we'll go with you.
Yeah, of course.
Right, yes, who was, did you raise your hand?
I think
No,
I-
you raised. You raised your hand.
Oh, would there be a capacity difference between the double-decker megabuses? And
Oh,
these,
yeah,
right?
we're about half, I think, because it's a single decker,
Yeah,
so
so
they have.
We're about 50 to 52 seats on each bus.
Yes.
I think it's great that you guys are activating that space again. I think it's wonderful. It's an empty space besides the park being over there, draws me to the park, it's really nice. Rats were a big issue last time. If you guys can just containerize the trash, that'd be really nice.
Yes.
So, just basically.
and your fence, you have to fix your fence on, there, then it's broken.
Eighth Avenue, take a walk by it.
So that was gonna be my, you guys are, who previously presented to us before from your?
I was here and Andrew was here.
Andrew,
Yeah.
is he still with you guys or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just curious,
Yes.
so,
Yes.
no, yeah, but, so this is, we keep getting check-ins from you guys because we keep applying for new things, so this is our
Yeah.
opportunity to, we have eyewitnesses saying a lot is better, but we just do, since you're here, you're with us, do you mind giving us an update on what's the improvements you made to the lot?
Yeah, so we've increased staff there, now we have our cleaners that go there, and we also we go to 30th Street, we also make sure they take pictures after they clean, to make sure it is clean, so we don't just take their word from it, so they go around, make sure there's no mattresses, or, I know there was a big issue on 30th Street. So they're always there taking pictures of it, making sure everything's clean, letting us know, hey, there is a mattress, I'll come and clean it up, so we're getting a lot of more,
What's the barricade? What is the barricade, which was all messed
yeah,
up?
so that one is brand new today, you'll see it there, it's.
I live in Connecticut, so I didn't know.
Yeah, so it took a while to get permits and landowner approvals, but we finally today decided to work on it this morning, it was perfect timing. So it's there, so we'll try to keep it, we're also cleaning that area as well, so we're just double checking and working with the third parties a lot more.
Let's hear it, thank you very much.
Good,
Okay, great.
So,
We have Miriam online just before we can vote.
yeah, I have a few questions, so, yeah, I think the vendors is a big issue to look like. Are you going to ask to install something at the corner so that, like, I don't know, blocks or whatever?
It's a city issue, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we have.
But what about
issues,
asking for planting trees?
I mean, there's a vendor right outside their lot now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think-
you walk by there, you smell the gasoline from all the tanks and. it's a-
I'm on the good side.
Right, so you
we
can
just-
do that.
we
Okay.
gotta get the city on that.
And so the second thing is that, again, please go and measure where your extension are going to be and how much is left for pedestrian to cross by. Okay, that is very important. And so who is going to do the cleaning over there?
So we're also gonna include what the cleaners that we have now at the lot, they will also come there. And we'll also have the staff who's there, we'll also do minimal cleaning throughout the day, we'll have a garbage can if possible there. Just to keep the area clean at all times, so they'll also go there, take pictures, we'll prove it that it was.
A container, not a garbage can.
Okay.
Or the lid on it.
Okay, I'm good with that. Who is online? Miriam. Janine, can you bring Miriam in?
Yeah, I'm transferring her over.
Thank you for waiting tonight. No worries.
I think you all know what I'm going to ask about, where people are going to wait, where they're going to sit. You've got a full crew. It's not like a city bus that only has a few people waiting, and shelter from the weather. 20 minutes waiting for a bus in the snow is not amenable.
Miriam, hold on 1 second. These are private operator.
I know.
They don't have to provide any of the things you are raising. So, and they probably will not, but so I just.
I mean, if they can, I don't
Right.
think they
So
can.
I don't think they can, so I think may not be the, you're not going to get anything.
This might not be the right audience for this,
Right.
this one.
Right. So we are with you for
Yeah.
all of that, but not with this crew. This crew is a different categories of buses.
He's a capitalist.
Okay, all right, so.
It can still be asked and raised because they might.
Yeah, you're quite raising it. Okay, so do we have a resolution to approve this spot?
Yes.
Motion.
Do we want, should we make it contingent on the next application for the reapplication of 34th Street to move down the block? If that's something we can.
I don't know that this is possible because the sidewalk is controlled by Vornado with their taxi. And so that would be DOT negotiating with Vornado, and we know that it's not going to be.
One thing to add, what we're trying to do is we're also increasing staff to kind of control that, to control the traffic and also move the TLs, the Ubers that just pull up, that shouldn't be there and just park. So we're gonna try to get staff there that can kind of.
That would be great.
Keep the traffic moving, so we're working on that right now.
I can't promise this sometime this summer, I'm not gonna go out with the video camera,
Absolutely.
making a half-hour presentation.
You absolutely should do that.
I don't.
So Christine, you're in good hands with any company that Christian oversees, just so you know.
Okay, yes, and I know.
It's all lies. It's all lies, but I like seeing everybody.
You're in good hands, so you don't need to worry.
Yeah, the fact that they have buses that are smaller than mega buses, that's the one thing that's making me feel like we're not gonna have a replication of the mega bus scene.
Right.
So
it's far enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a motion and a second, all in favor? All right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying so late.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So the next item is a discussion vote on the Manhattan Cruise Terminal Master Plan. You had a document in there. In your list, what's happening is that historically, CB4 has requested a shore power to be installed for the Manhattan Cruise Terminal. They were all ready to go do it, and then there was a total change of plan, and they said, well, we are going to redo a complete plan of the terminal. So the terminal, as you know, are those four piers, right? From pier 88 to 92, and which receive cruise boats to master price over 250 days a year. So it's not like, from time to time, it's a lot of days. So they have started a process, WPE is driving the process, but in the first two discussion, it turned out that it was mostly about transportation. So I thought I would bring you the comments I made, which we have reviewed with WPE and, you know, I would want that to be included in the WPE letter. So I'm going to read that. You know that in front of the buildings, there is a ramp which give access to parking on the roof. So we say vehicular ramps should be eliminated completely or strictly reserved to cruise customers. And, you know, parking, instead of having parking there, maybe they want to provide a long-term parking in an off-site location rather than, right? So if the parking is maintained, the vehicular ramp on the east side would be removed. And then they could have circular ramps all the way inside the terminals, you know, so on your deck, like in the parking, you have the circular ramp. Maybe they should use automated parking, which occupies less space, and provide a separate area for public charging, EV charging. And then another suggestion is to use solar panels to cover whatever parking there is, right? So if they put parking on the roof, at least they should have solar panel on the roof. Pedestrian safety, we say all vehicular activity should be within the pier footprint, not outside, and separate the pedestrian biking infrastructure, like the trucks, the delivery, the taxi, the rideshare, all that stuff should be inside the piers. Like you have on an airport, there is a whole area which is for those things, right? And they can be inside. Create a wide elevated connection between DeWitt Clinton Park and the pier, separate vehicular and pedestrian ingress, and create more exit and crossing for pedestrian and vehicles, because right now, everything is at Pier 88. So they have to have an inside road to bring everything. And allow more time for pedestrian crossing of the Greenway and the West Side Highway, longer crossing time, neck downs, larger pedestrian refuge, and add traffic signal for bikes on the Greenway. Absolutely. Because you have all these people coming from the cruise and you have no idea that there is a Greenway. People are suggesting blue highways, and we say it's desirable as long as there are no conflict with the Greenway, because I can't imagine, you know, all this bike transport coming across the Greenway. I'm not sure it's going to work. And I think the park use and the Greenway should be the top priority in this area. And use of roof for new technology, you know that Brad is always bringing up the drones. I think there would be an ideal location for having a drone station, and even a helicopter station if they are silent helicopter.
The air taxis, the vehicle air taxis, yeah, actually I do.
That's actually really cool.
That's a great idea.
So you could say those two things could live there if they are silent.
Yeah.
You know, to me, because you have 4 roofs. This is
Great
big.
idea. Yeah.
Now you can really get rid of the other one, right? And move it up. So these are the comments. Wanted to get a vote from you, tell me if you have other ideas, and then we can pass that on to the other guys. Yes.
It's probably not, because I think they cited security issues, but we've had a history of requesting access to the waterfront there, because it's the one break.
Yes, they will do, the waterfront people are going to ask for that.
So they're gonna.
Waterfront people.
I'm going to ask for waterfront.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
WP, yes.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but from what I've read years ago. Stop. No, from what I read years
Stop
ago,
now.
ships create a lot of pollution.
Yes.
You're talking about 250 days a year, increasing the pollution.
Well, it doesn't increase, that's the way it is today.
It's 250.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah, it's
250.
just a very high rate. And so, I mean, maybe we can get them to lower the number of days that they.
No.
No,
it is inappropriate.
Or are there systems and maybe on.
No, you can't tell
To
me
make them more, less.
No, the idea is to install shore power. If there is shore power, there is no pollution. That's the request from WPE. I'm giving you the request from transportation, WP as a whole list of requests.
I'm glad I was.
Yes.
I think what you mentioned about the Blue Highway, back in the Blasio's time, there was a big presentation there about bringing,
Barges.
these barges over across.
Right.
And the issue really was, I don't know if that prevented that going forward, but the issue was, how are they gonna be going back and
Yeah.
forth across the highway and the bikeway
Yeah.
and the walkway and everything else?
Right.
But I did have a question from their presentation, if we could ask them. They rate these things low, moderate complexity, high complexity.
No, they were asking the public to rate it.
Right.
They don't rate it themselves. When we did the charrette, we, the public, went and said, okay, I think this is very high priority, this is low priority, and then they took that back.
No, but I thought when I saw their presentation, there was a consideration of the complexity of doing that particular.
Yes, and again, that was
So
a
that
judgment.
came out of, I would.
Right. So this was like, we had a charrette,
Right.
everybody was out there,
Yeah.
and they had the picture, you know, and everybody said, yeah, I think this guy is important, and this is complex, or this is not complex, I mean, it's
Well, that
an uneducated opinion. I would
That's
say.
on the grid. That was the
Yeah,
one that you
yeah.
got, but there was another one with all these different photos of different issues. So I didn't know. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
My concern is the amount of traffic that's going to be created with all these passengers coming in on this side of the highway.
Already coming in.
They're already coming in.
Yeah, with the Ubers and the
There's nothing
taxis.
new, there is nothing new.
Yeah.
This is the
How-
way it happens today, and it's ugly. We're
Yeah.
trying to make it better.
If you've
That's
ever-
not-
If you've ever gone past when the ship
Oh, yeah.
is unloading,
Yeah.
or even loaded for that matter.
It's a mess.
It's not a good time to be biking or even walking.
Why do we have this in Manhattan? Why is there? Why is there?
You want to take a trip to that? You don't want to.
Cruise over Manhattan. They have a company thing on.
If you leave from Cape Verde on a cruise line over there, they literally go to the Statue of Liberty, turn around.
No.
And they go back out the.
Those cruises are
Yeah.
fine. I'm talking about the like, why are we going to the Bahamas from?
We're only gone for like 6 hours, and people can't get off in Brooklyn and spend an
They
hour
want
in
to
Uber.
Manhattan. They
And
want
an
to-
hour in
Yeah,
Uber.
why are they driving to Manhattan to get?
Wait,
All right.
First of all, a lot of people are not driving,
Yeah.
some people are driving, and,
Others in drone.
what it is that it's an economic, you know,
Yeah.
engine. Because people say, well, I'm going to spend a weekend at the, you know, Waldorf.
Right.
And,
Right.
right, so they want to have, and then I'm going to see a show, and then I'm.
You have expensive restaurant.
Walk on and see everything. You know.
So, yeah,
You know, we used to think big back in the day, and you know, this replaced the Chelsea Piers, right? Chelsea
Yeah.
Piers used to be the luxury cruise line terminal.
Oh,
and
really?
then- Yeah, and then, you know, the ships were too big, so they had to move them somewhere else to go to the Manhattan Cruise Line
Right.
Terminal. And even that was too small when they first built in the twenties, so they had to lengthen the piers, and that's why it was like indent into the Manhattan ships. They actually took rock away from the island and made the pier longer. Now, they thought of the roadway with the pier, and I think we should do the same right now with the Route 9A study. They should definitely be considering how that design or that potential design could impact this cruise terminal.
yeah,
And they should be thought of as one, and those timelines should be aligned.
right. Well, we have,
Yeah.
I know that we have, I am on the board of the Hudson River Trust, and we have advocated for them to push, to say you should coordinate all these projects, because all these projects have an effect on each other. Yes,
Have we asked them about like, if there's ever a place where the highway should be elevated, it's like where all the cruise passengers are walking. You could elevate other things, you could elevate the like path or anything, but there's ever a situation where like having like grade separation between.
well, I mean, that's it.
Crossing into the
Well,
city.
when we are talking about the US
Traffic
one,
along the waterway would make sense.
when we are talking about the US one, and if you know, Max is going to join the team on the US one analysis with myself. And I wanted to talk about that too. This is something we may consider and say, you know, it should be above.
Yeah, I mean, it could go the other way too, could be the cruise ship passengers, take a bridge above.
So, all right, so do we have a motion here for?
Make a
saying-
motion.
Yes? Second, all in favor? Yes. 1 second, thank you so much. Talking about the US one, I think next week there is going to be a did I send you, there is going to be a walkthrough, and unfortunately, I won't be able to. So if one of you, yeah, if
What,
you can,
wait, when is it?
it's on the 26th.
Well, it's 3 days, so 25th, 26th, and 28th.
Right, so on the 26th, I'm going to send you the dates. We'll need one person because we are limiting, they have limited to the number of people. So we are 2 people, so we can reuse the slot. But if one of you can come and walk on, do the walkthrough and suggest ideas.
It's a few hours of walking along the water,
Right.
pointing things out.
Like half a day, yeah. If you could do that, would be great. So let me know, because I can't go. I will send it to you. I don't have that in front of me, right? And the second thing is that there is a map, and I thought I had sent that to everybody. And if I have not, where you can put suggestions on things that need to be changed. So I was thinking especially about you, Alan, because you know the Chelsea things we have discussed, right? And you could put that on the map saying we need to change the signal timing, whatever the resolution was. You know what I'm talking? Yeah, there were 2 locations, right?
17th Street, 18th.
And 20 something. There are 2 locations at which we said this is no good.
All intersections.
So that's happening. We will report soon, but there is a walkthrough. They have a very elaborate community outreach. I don't know, Todd, will you be back next week or not?
Yeah, send me an email. I might be able to make it.
That would be awesome too, because you use the Greenway all the time. Okay. All right, so this is going on and we're going to have interactions about that.
We have a couple more things. Your survey.
Yes.
No.
Our survey.
I don't need to take credit for something that you might need.
Our survey. Let me show you. You saw the survey. Can you, Janine, can you put it?
Stepped away for a second,
Can you put
so,
it on the chat or not?
No.
You don't? Okay. I sent you that in the Dropbox. Did you see that?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
I'm back.
Here she is.
I'm back.
So we're talking about the spreadsheet, right?
Yep, I have it. Let me just pull it up.
Oh, yeah, copy of MCB4 priorities.
Yeah. Here it is. You sent it in a separate email, Janine.
It's the one that's in the Dropbox, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yep, got it.
Yeah, so dogs. MCB4 transportation priorities.
Okay.
We're nearly there, guys.
Yeah, so. That's why I said you
I'm
were.
sorry, I had to pull it up on another screen. That's why it's taking a little bit.
It's not my fault, really.
I think you take this moment though to acknowledge how well lit Charlie is right now. Like, look at those eyes. Man. Holy crap.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
You're so welcome. Unbelievable.
Recording in progress.
Good, it is. Not big. We're done with the other running business. We're just.
No new items. I was just, here it is. Oh, we need to, how do we do that?
Oh, this is great. Zoom out.
Yeah, you have to zoom out.
Okay.
Actually, the bottom.
Or you can make it full screen, right?
Can you see it there?
We see it, but we see that in,
It's not legible.
it's not legible, and then there is no, the yellow is gone, which is bizarre, right?
That's the right one.
It's not the right one.
I don't even know if it's the right one, actually.
Let me read you the same. Okay,
If you have access to the Dropbox, just.
look at your Dropbox if you.
Is that the right
can.
type?
No, I don't think this is the right. Then-
What's this, okay?
Yeah, there is no green, there is no yellow and.
Yeah, I know it shows up on the Dropbox. I'm not sure when I download it. Let me pull it up on the Dropbox.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway, I took everything where the collection of the answers was over 50%, right? So how critical is it? Extremely critical. We have pedestrian visibility daylighting, 9th Avenue super sidewalk, speed up buses on West 42nd busway, and increased frequency on M11 and M12.
Can you see it here?
And that, yes, that's the good thing, right? Now, I kind of also look at what the chances of success you said were. And I think the crosstown bike lane, we said we have a medium chance of success, and maybe that's something we can pursue. And then the bike corrals is like, nobody's very interested, but you know, at the same time, we could combine bike corrals with daylighting, right? And so every time we say there's daylighting, we want the bike corral to protect the place. And so we make those two things at the same time and did all the requests, and it's good because it's easier to get a bike corral than to get daylighting. So if we put those two together, we have a better chance of getting our number
Maybe we
one.
can get battery charges.
Right?
Maybe we can get the battery charges there.
Exactly, and you can put the battery chargers too. So, you know, if we focus on those first four and the congestion, intersection, these are the things we should be focusing, and now we are already focusing on those things, but you know, the daylighting is like, going forward, we probably should do a little, you know, ground exercise, like everybody going around in different sections.
Little footwork, little
Right.
survey.
When it's warmer, right? We don't have to do it now. So that would be the idea. And then, if you go to the next tab, right? We have the next tab. These were the legislative section. Summary legislative, here it is. So the top two was expand visibility of pedestrian with daylighting, so that's the law, and expand speed control automation for new vehicles, which we have already sent letters, but we could send more letters, right, about that. And then we have a medium side, a very critical, which is sidewalk management, reduce obstruction, which is the thing we just talked about, right? So we are on it, so that's good. So that's it. That's now, one thought was taking the same question, sending them to the whole community and see what we got,
Oh, that's cool.
right?
That's really
To
cool.
compare
Yeah.
what we think with what they think.
Yeah, and my only question was, do we add in, allow a write-in section?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Right, so I think that should be the next step. We have the priority, we can summarize them a bit for us, but if people say, hey, you forgot a really important one, here we go, we can focus on that. Any thoughts?
Like it, I think it's great there.
All right.
I just have one very, very quick thing, which was, to ask, as if we're going out and canvassing for daylighting, the other question I had was if we could canvass for, curb cuts. Do you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Has anyone noticed, does anyone have any issues?
Pedestrian ramps, it's called.
Pedestrian ramps?
Because
Oh, well,
the
that
cut
is,
is not talking.
yeah, pedestrian ramps.
Right.
Does anyone notice, are there any corners that people can think of where they know for a fact that they're missing and they should be there? No?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna do my own little walk through this month.
No, but if we
I'll bring
walk-
it back to you guys.
Yeah,
I was curious.
No, if you have in your, I mean, we should definitely put, because what we had done is about 5 years ago, ask for the pedestrian ramp replacement.
Yeah.
And when there was a lawsuit for ADA, they came down and they replaced all of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, generally, I think I know one which is very bad, it's on the Port Authority, which is like, but I don't know, they are going to want to do anything because they
Not
are
for
going
there,
to mess
it's
up.
just for the whole thing.
So,
Yeah, I just wanna
question.
confirm, yeah.
Which is, sometimes you go to a corner and there's not one, like, let's say the sidewalk is here, right? There's not one here and here, there's one like
At the corner.
at the corner.
Yes.
So you're gonna like walk into the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And is that like because they're cheap and they don't wanna like put two, or is that like a design that they prefer?
No, it's because they are cheap or because they were utility and they couldn't.
Outside contractors.
It's a flaw, I mean, it's, they're supposed to actually change them, the corner will don't work because they will create a puddle. They're supposed to actually make them.
Yeah,
right.
right.
So some of them are not replaced yet, you're right. So there are some.
Alright, so that would be an issue, alright.
Where that hasn't happened, yeah.
Well, and if we go that direction, I mean, the puddles is like everywhere, right? So that could be one thing, I mean, you know, at the corner of my street, it's ridiculous, right? So.
But we could do our own production of Singing in the Rain, which could be really.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, well, motion to,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean.
Terrific.
Night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Spirits seem high this evening, everyone's, the energy is in the room.
Energy is in the room.
Maybe